I 23F had sex with a 17-year-old. He told me he was 19. He took a video of us having sex without my consent and is threatening to share it. What can I do? We met on Tinder in December and started seeing each other in January. We've slept together a handful of times. I decided it would be best to stop seeing each other around the start of last month when they started telling people to stay away from each other. At first he was really understanding, but over the past couple weeks he's been pushing to see me more. I kept trying to make plans to see him once everything has calmed down, but he's been insisting on coming over to my place despite everything. Yesterday I finally put my foot down and let him know we wouldn't be meeting now or later, since I didn't like how pushy he was being. He called me and we got into it because I wouldn't let him come over. Once we hung up, he snapped me a video of us having sex in his fucking car. I don't even know when he took it. It's dark so you can't really see me, but it's clearly my voice. On the video, he wrote that I would either let him come over, or he'd send the video to my boss and tell his mom, because he's 17. I told him I was out of town because my sister had her baby, which is true, but he could come over when I got back. I was afraid if I told him no straight up that he'd send the video. I did not know he was 17. I never would have slept with him. I have screenshots of his Tinder profile where his age is clearly listed as 19. I don't have a Facebook, so we were never friends on there, but I do have his Insta and SC, and nothing on those indicates he's 17. I keep thinking back over all of our interactions, but even in text messages, he doesn't say anything to indicate he was in high school. He told me he went to a local community college. He talks about college classes and getting off of his job at HEB. Anyway, it's not like we had long conversations. Our relationship consisted of having sex and maybe getting dinner beforehand. Please help me. I've been freaking out about this for several hours. I work with kids right now, and I'm in school to be a school social worker. I can't have this on my record. I know I should probably go to the cops, but how can I do that and make sure nothing comes out of this? Relevant comments, commenter 1. The age of consent is 17 in Texas. The sex was legal. The video is not. He is violating child pornography laws. As long as you don't have or distribute a copy of the video, you aren't breaking any laws. Reply. Do you think going straight to the cops would work, or should I get a lawyer involved? I want to tell someone what he's doing, if only so that he won't try to do it to someone else. His mother should definitely be made aware, but I don't know where he lives, so I can't just go tell her myself assuming he even lives with her. Plus, I'm afraid that if I don't say anything, he'll email the video to my boss, who will probably fire me because he's under 18 since I work with at-risk youth. I'm really worried about what he could do to my name and my career. Thanks so much for your help. Commenter 2. Look. You need to take a lot of deep breaths and hire a lawyer. I would recommend somebody who has a practice that specializes in defamation. You haven't committed a crime. Ironically, he has committed at least 3. Manufacture of child pornography, revenge porn, and extortion. But as you point out, for whatever reason, this person is trying to fuck up your future career, which, deep breath, probably won't happen. Nonetheless, you need to consult a professional who can really put the screws to him and get the video deleted and an injunction of some sort. The law is very much on your side here, but I would highly recommend going on the offensive here with the assistance of an attorney. Commenter 3. As others have mentioned, he is the one committing criminal acts here. I would suggest going straight to the police on this, and the sooner the better. Texas is not currently on a statewide lockdown, so you might have a chance to get them to follow up with warrants on the guy's devices. Don't delete any conversations you have had with him. Texas recently passed HB 2974, which is geared directly towards sextortion, which this would count as, the police should take this very seriously. Update. Long story short, following everyone's advice, I reached out to an attorney who advised me to begin compiling records of my communication with him, and to record any communication we had going forward. She told me to avoid reaching out to him, but to be prepared if he reached out to me. I downloaded a call recording app and started backing up my screenshots of our texts and messages. He did unmatch me on Tinder, so thank you to everyone that warned me our conversations would go away. He didn't say so, but I think he may have seen my Reddit post. I only say that because I know it made the front page, and last night he called out of the blue to apologize and asked me to not call the police. So, either he saw it or he had a come-to-Jesus moment. He told me that he is 19. And that he only said he was 17 to scare me since I was being a bitch and wouldn't let him come over. When I told him to prove his age or I'd call the cops, he texted me a picture of his ID. He also says that it isn't me on the video, but that he deleted it anyway. I'm not sure if this is the truth, but I've got a recorded confession, so that's something. I haven't spoken to the attorney since he called me, But I did email her with a transcript and recording of our conversation. We have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow. I'm still going to be seeking legal action. I'm just not sure what action since his ID does say he's 19. In that case, there was no CP, although I know there's still a case for sextortion. I don't think it would be wise for me continue updating this situation on Reddit if he's here too. So this will probably be the last thing I say about it. Thanks to everyone that has messaged me to be supportive. I really appreciate it. I can't respond to everyone because between PMs and chats, I'm sitting on 300 plus messages about that post, funnily enough. A nice chunk of them are from men calling me a pedophile, saying they hope I get raped since I'm such a slut, trying to figure out where in Texas I am so we can hook up, etc. This man tried to coerce me into having sex with him via blackmail, and I'm the one getting blamed because I had sex with someone I believed was an adult. From this point on, I'll only be seeing men my age or older, and eyeing everyone. According to the attorney, the fact that he looked old enough wasn't an excuse. This might sound dramatic, but for most of yesterday, I really thought my life was over. Never again. Stories number 2. Aita for not getting my son's father's child support lowered? I know the answer sounds pretty obvious, but I'm losing my mind. My child's father left me in the hospital after I gave birth, and hasn't seen or provided anything for us since. I filed child support about 25 weeks after the baby was born, and he begged me to drop the case if he started to contribute. I said I would. Then an hour later he basically said, "You know what? Never mind, I'm not doing anything. Take me to court." And do nothing he did. He told me he wanted to date around, and he never really loved me. That he wanted to deal with women who actually desired him, whatever. That made me so angry and devastated and resentful, and I truly felt like I couldn't continue on, because up until I gave birth, we were so happy and excited and planning our future together. Yes, we had arguments, and it wasn't perfect, but we were committed to each other, I thought. Anyway, until the child support hearing, he was dating and messing around with other girls while I took care of our son. Every time he claimed he would come visit, he didn't. He always had an excuse for not contributing monetarily. He was working a job making $20 and after taxes would bring home about $400–500 a week. He couldn't even bother setting aside $50 for diapers. So I just waited for our court date. A couple days before the date, he told me he hated me, and he hopes to never see or hear from me again, and blocked me. It finally comes, and the judge ordered $220 a week plus $10 in arrears. He unblocks me and has been begging me to help him get it lowered. I know that amount is a lot on him because he has a lot of bills and takes care of his mom, but I'm still so angry about how he left me, and the fact that he's been seeing other people that I really don't care. The way I see it, the more he has to pay me, the less he has to try to date other women. It's for that reason that I think I may be the asshole. I feel like it's his punishment for hurting me and abandoning our son. But child support is supposed to be about the child, not revenge, Aita. Commenter 1, no. If he's responsible enough to make a person, he gets to support them. Make sure you monitor him. If he starts working for cash, get tax department involved. Commenter 2, do not lower your CS. The money is not for you. It is to support your child. The judge deemed this an appropriate amount to help support your child. If you lower the money he owes you, you are taking away from your child. Even if you don't need every cent, I bet you do, to help support your child. Save it for your child. Diapers are expensive now, but there will be holidays, birthdays, extracurriculars, bikes, a car, college, a wedding, all in their future. Your child will need every cent of support. NTA. Commenter 3, NTA. Don't get it lowered, and don't communicate with him unless it's directly about your child. It is not cheap to raise a child. You are not punishing this man. This is his obligation to his son. You didn't set the amount. A judge decided it based on a formula. Your ex can contest this and plead hardship, but you don't have to support him or agree it should be lowered. That should be up to him to go back to court and prove. Commenter 4. This is about his responsibilities, and he told you to take him to court. This isn't being petty. Your child is owed that money, and maybe you are being a little petty. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm so tired of people acting like being petty is the worst thing a person could be. Being a deadbeat dad is 100,000% worse than being a little petty because your partner showed you the kind of person he is. Stories number 3. AITA for not going to my best friend's wedding after he stripped me of being his best man and leaving me entirely out of his wedding. I 25M have been best friends with Henry 25M my entire life. Literally back as babies in daycare we were best friends. Our moms always said we've always been inseparable, and yeah, we even were roommates from 1822 4 years ago. We both started dated a pair of best friends, a stupid idea with foresight, I know. But at the time, we thought it was cool. And honestly, we didn't see them lasting as long as they did. They got married while my girlfriend cheated on me a few months back. They got married last month. I was supposed to be my friend's best man, while my now ex was the maid of honor. But after I found out she was cheating, we had a nasty fight and a nastier breakup. My friend's wife obviously took my ex's side and demanded I be dropped as the best, and entirely out of the wedding. Henry, who never was the confrontational guy, obliged, and told me he didn't want drama in his wedding, and had another one of our friends as his best man. I wasn't even one of the groomsmen. I was hurt. I told him that we've been best friends since we were in fucking diapers. I was just supposed to be a regular guest at his damn wedding. He said I'm lucky I was even still invited. I asked him if I even get to have a speech at the ceremony, and he said no. So I told him I'd do him one better and not go at all as a wedding gift to his wife. We had big fights about it, and he called me petty and childish. I called him spineless. The wedding happened and I didn't go. They went on as usual and looked very happy in the pictures. And honestly, I was crying the entire day. I was looking forward to this day for months, and I spent it all alone at home. Even my parents and sisters were there, and I wasn't. I was supposed to be right by his side, man. He still hasn't reached out to me at all since then. And honestly, I'm starting to regret it. I love him so much and can't imagine life without him. Was I the asshole? Will he hate me forever now? Comments. Commenter 1. The maid of honor should have been dropped since she's the one who cheated and was in the wrong. Your friend was spineless. Commenter 2. He doesn't care about you at all. He's absolutely gutless. And honestly, your family is disgusting for going at all. He and his wife are pathetic and should be ashamed of themselves. NTA, I'm so sorry your worthless friend is such a pathetic bitch. Commenter 3 TBF, he was spineless. You have been friends for over 20 years. If you had been the one that cheated get it, but you've been punished twice over NTA. Reply, she was cheating on me for over a year too, and his wife knew and helped cover it up. Commenter 4, your friend made an active choice to exclude you and then had the audacity to say you were lucky to be invited. Barring something criminal happening during the breakup, like did you assault her? Destroy property. You were supposed to be just as important as she was. Start working on how live without him. I'm also curious on your family's take. If you were the innocent, wronged party, and then got treated like this, weren't they mad on your behalf? I don't know if there are missing reasons in the post, but either way, I wouldn't have gone. You were being pushed out anyway, NTA reply. My parents are very non-dramatic people. They don't get into drama and stuff. They're good friends with his parents, and so they went. Stories number 4. My F24 boyfriend M29 has his best female friend F29 staying at his house for a week, and it's weird. I've been dating a guy, I'll call him Josh, for about 6 months. He's so great and we're so compatible, and I've definitely fallen in love with him. Even though we haven't said the love word yet, I feel like it's just now getting serious. He's told me about his friend, I'll call her Sarah, early on when we started dating. He said she's his best friend. They've been friends since they were 9. They were next-door neighbors growing up and lived together for about a year after college. But she has been working overseas for several years, and he hasn't seen her in a long time. Even though they talk somewhat regularly, I assumed she was like a sister, but now I'm questioning that. Suddenly Sarah decides to come for a visit and asks to stay with him for a week, and he says yes without talking to me first. Then when she gets here, she says she's moving back to the States, but isn't sure where yet, but probably not our area. What bothers me is he's really different when she's around. Like his humor is different, he's more standoffish with me. He talks all about her and all of these great things she's done. They don't really flirt, but it's obvious they have a lot of history, inside jokes, etc. I stayed over with the first night she was there and he wasn't interested in having sex at all. He said he was too tired. Yesterday I was coming over in the afternoon and I waited for an hour on his front step until he showed up with Sarah. They had gone on a walk and out to lunch and forgotten about me coming over. Apparently he left his phone at home. I was pissed odd, so I left, and he came to my house later. But only because apparently she told him to. I don't think he's the type to cheat, but it seems obvious he's emotionally attached to her, and I think it's really weird that she just shows up after years and they're super tight, and I feel like I'm on the outs. I know they have a ton of history together, like stories and memories and everything, but I can't shake the sense that there's something more going on. She's supposedly leaving in 5 days, but who knows where? Am I being a crazy jealous girlfriend? Should I say something or just wait it out? TLDR, BF of 6 months has best female friend of 20 years at his house for a week. Am I being petty and jealous for having a problem with it? Or should I put my foot down? Edit. I'm going to take everyone's advice and stop freaking out. I'll back off and talk to the BF when I get a chance. Relevant comments, commenter 1. You're not being crazy, but you are being jealous. You said he's known her since he was 9. Did they ever date? Of course they'll have inside jokes and he'll feel awkward around her because he's probably wondering what she thinks of you. Reply, I don't know if they ever dated. I didn't think so until she came and now I'm wondering, but I'm kind of afraid to ask. Commenter 2, doesn't sound like there's anything romantic going on. He just should have handled this in a better fashion. He doesn't have to okay a friend staying with him for a week, but he should have figured out times during that period where he would see or include you. Him forgetting you were coming over was definitely a dickish thing to do. Honestly, kudos to his friend for pushing him to go over to yours to make up for it. She probably felt so uncomfortable that he did that. I think you should hit him up and tell him you want him to enjoy his time with his friend. But if he needs to respect both yours and her time if he's trying to have you guys meet up and hang, not tell stories you can't relate to the whole time or forget that you're coming. Reply, he did invite me over for dinner the first night she was here. But we already had plans to go out that night, so basically he changed our date to include her. I think you should hit him up and tell him you want him to enjoy his time with his friend. But if he needs to respect both yours and her time if he's trying to have you guys meet up and hang, not tell stories you can't relate to the whole time or forget that you're coming. Good advice. Thanks. Commenter 3. Has he said he's serious about you, though? I know you say you feel it, but does he? An old childhood best friend is a special thing. I know, 'cause I have one. So even if it's not romantic between them, it's still a special friendship that can trump a not-so-serious girlfriend even. I'm not saying it's wrong to be jealous. You're seeing how he acts around someone he's really close with? You guys just aren't at that level yet. My advice would be to befriend the girl and see what she's all about. See if the friendship means as much to her as she does to him. I think then you'll have your answer. If it's mutual, then I think it's safe. If not, that means he idolizes her and you should probably move on or have a serious conversation with him. Reply, we haven't explicitly talked about that yet, but we are exclusive. I'm not saying it's wrong to be jealous. You're seeing how he acts around someone he's really close with. You guys just aren't at that level yet. Yeah, I think that's a lot of it. He has this different thing with her that I want to have and don't do. It makes me wonder why he's not with her. Update. My F24 boyfriend, M29, has his best female friend, F29, staying at his house for a week, and it's weird. So I have an update faster than I thought I would, but it's not great. I took some advice and didn't text or call Josh yesterday at all. Then he called and asked me to come over and talk last night after work. At first I thought for sure he was breaking up with me, but that's not what happened. Although what did happen might be worse. Sarah wasn't there when I got there. She apparently went out somewhere for the night. Basically, Josh told me the truth about Sarah. They are best friends, and they talk and text very regularly, probably more than I had realized. But yes, they also used to be involved. He said she's more than an ex, which was really confusing until he explained what he meant. Apparently after college, he and Sarah lived together and then were together as a couple for a while. Apparently she got pregnant accidentally pretty early on in their relationship and the baby died. I don't know how. If it was a miscarriage or what. But I think she was pretty far along when the baby died. I guess it was very traumatic for both of them, and they only lasted about 6 more months together after that. She took a job overseas and they ended up breaking up sometime after she left. He said that the two of them never really talked about what happened until this week, and he's realizing he never grieved the loss of their baby and he needs time with her this week to process it, so hopefully he can move on. I don't know what to do with this information. Not only is she not just a friend, she's the mother of his only child. I asked why he didn't tell me this before, and he said he was going to tell me about losing the baby eventually, if we decided to take things to the next level, but that haven't happened yet. But he never really told me about Sarah because she just disappeared, and he hasn't even seen her more than a few times briefly, since it all happened almost 8 years ago. So he basically thought she was a non-issue until she showed suddenly up a few days ago. So now I'm more confused. He said he was really sorry, and asked for a few last days with Sarah before she leaves to try to get some sort of closure on the whole thing. It sounds like he wants to move on. It also seems like she does as well because she's the one who has been telling him to talk to me. I have so many more questions, but I didn't ask them last night because he seemed so broke up about everything. I've never seen him like that before. I ended up staying over last night again after we talked. Yes, we had sex this time, and this morning we both got up early and went to work. I'm not sure what to do now. Should I back off? Or tell him how I feel and ask that he not cut me out for the next few days while he's with her? I thought about taking the afternoon off and just going over and talking to Sarah, but would that be weird? I don't want to break up with him right now in case he's telling the truth, and after this, Sarah does go away and isn't an issue anymore. But my biggest worry is that even if they move on, he's not ever going to cut her out of his life. Now she has some sort of special place in his life I'll never have. Not sure how to proceed. TLDR, the female best friend staying at my boyfriend's house for the week is his ex, and they had a baby together that didn't live. He wants a few days to try to process it with her. I don't know what to do. Update 1. I sent a text I was advised to send saying how I feel. I got a response. Too tired to deal with it tonight. Note. The sent text and BF's reply were in the comments. I'm pasting them here. Reply. This really sucks. I'm really in love with you. And I thought you were in love with me too. Now I'm just confused. I should be comforting you, not her. I should be at your place at night, not her. I should be helping you process this, not her. Because I am supposed to be the person you love, not her BF. Replied after 3 hours. Hey, I'm sorry, I just saw this now. I put my phone down. I'm really sorry this is happening. Especially now. It's bad timing for us, I know. I understand why you feel that way, and if Sarah was just my ex, I would totally agree with your feelings, but she's been my friend for 20 years. We were only together a year and a half out of the 20, and neither of us really ever closed out that chapter of our lives. I understand how you're feeling. I know I've handled it badly. I feel really terrible about it. I feel like I can't fix everything all at once, but I want to talk to you about it more. Can we talk tomorrow and figure out a time when we can talk more? I understand if this is too much to deal with. It's a lot. I'm sorry. Update 2. I'm taking everyone's advice into consideration. Thank you all for all of your comments and feedback. I'm going to take today to think and figure out my next step. I'll update later. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, I've never lost a baby. But why does he need multiple overnight stays to sort this out with his ex? They can't just talk for a few hours and let it go? I agree with everyone saying you should let this one go. He's clearly not in a good space right now. Reply. To be fair, he works a normal day job, and so far the only time he's been alone with her is for an evening day before yesterday. But I get what you're saying, commenter 2. In case he's telling the truth, if he was lying, it probably wouldn't be that complicated or tragic. At the very least, you should be allowed to meet Sarah and spend some time with her. If you believe she was telling him to talk to you, then I imagine she is curious about you too. At least meet her before deciding. Reply. Oh, I've met her. Unfortunately for me, she's pretty great. My original post was partially about the first night she was there. He invited me over, and we all had dinner and hung out. That's when I started getting weird vibes that they were more emotionally attached than I originally thought. Turns out I was right. Commenter 3. The fact that he'd not tell you this, and would basically ignore you so that he could engage in this psychodrama with her for a week, suggests that you should nope the fuck out of this relationship. Reply. He did have me over the first night and come to my house the second, and we talked last night. If I back off, he'll be with her the whole weekend, though. Commenter 4, I see lots of red flags. Reply. I do too, but selfishly wish it was more simple than it is. Maybe this is super naive, but I feel like he's a good guy who has a shitty thing happen and is trying to deal with it. What if I break it off with him, and he really was being honest and just needed the week to work things out? Or if my breaking up with him opens the door for them to get back together because she'll be right there when I do. Commenter 5, why can't he work things out on his own? Working things out does not necessitate a week-long slumber party with his ex. Reply. Yeah, I don't know. All I know is he said she's there for the week to get on her feet before she figures out what's next for her back in the US. Then suddenly it's a lot more than that. I don't think he knew that before though. Commenter 6, not only that, but is there anything verifying the miscarriage story other than your boyfriend and his ex? Maybe he's just real good at manipulating you, and you don't even realize it. Reply. Well, when I asked questions about the baby, he went back to his office and brought back some old ultrasound photos he had. I think he said she was like 7 months pregnant when the baby died. I realize this isn't the point, and I don't know why I'm being defensive of him right now, other than I've had a couple drinks. Final update, my F24 boyfriend M29 has his best female friend F29 staying at his house for a week, and it's weird. So after we exchanged the texts, I was advised to send CN a first update post for Link Josh, and I didn't talk much the rest of the day. He called me when he got off work and we talked a little bit, and he told me he would see me the next day Saturday. I guess Josh and Sarah were planning on going on a hike Saturday, but then he got called into work, So I went over there and took Sarah on a hike, and it was actually really good. We talked a lot about Josh, and she told me about what he was like growing up. I told her he had told me about the baby and had talked to me about it. I think maybe she was kind of upset about that at first. She didn't really seem like she wanted to talk to me about it at all. But basically we both sort of agreed it was good for him to finally talk about it and deal with it. Then at the end of the hike, she told me she thought I was really great for Josh, and she was happy he had me, which was probably BS considering the rest of what happened. I hung out with both of them a lot the rest of Saturday. There was some added drama that night because Sarah hurt her foot, and we had to take her to the ER. But anyway, Sunday morning I dropped by Josh's house early before I went to teach a class. Partly because I needed to pick up something I had there, and partly because I kind of wanted to see how they would react. When I walked into the kitchen, I saw Josh standing there hugging Sarah. I think she was crying or something. Anyway, I was like, what the hell was going on? And Josh got really annoyed. He asked why I kept coming over, and I got really angry with him for the first time, and yelled at him and asked why he didn't want me to. He didn't yell, but he seemed really mad that I was there again, which only confirmed my suspicions. So anyway, we started arguing. Josh went upstairs to grab my bag, and while he did, I saw a big box folder thing on the table and I opened it. I should have mentioned he's a designer artist for his job, but he also does a lot of his own drawing and illustration, sort of graphic novel style. It was all pictures he'd drawn of Sarah, or some character who looked like her. He must have been working on it a long time because there were a lot, and it looked like it was supposed to be a book or something. He obviously never showed it to me before. I kind of freaked out. I was so angry and hurt that apparently she's been his Fing muse or whatever this whole time. I was furious. When he came downstairs again, I was so angry I picked up the folder and threw it. Apparently there was more than paper in there. Something glass was in there and it shattered and was super loud. No, my greatest moment, I know. Part of me feels dumb about it now, and part of me wishes I had ripped them all up. But anyway, I was yelling and upset, and Josh was just really quiet. I could tell he was upset and angry, but just kept trying to get me to calm down. Sarah came back in and I guess saw what happened and asked if she could talk to me. She basically told me that she was really sorry. She said Josh did not cheat on me with her. I have no idea if that's true, but she said she had no reason to lie. And she knows it was a really bad week, but she was leaving tomorrow and I never had to see her again after that if I didn't want to. She basically took full responsibility for what had happened and said she was hoping after this week Josh could heal some things and finally move on. I didn't mention the fucking drawings, even though they were everywhere now and she and obviously knew about them. I was just so rattled and upset I didn't know what to do. I mean, I'm an effing mess standing there with crying and talking for the girl I'm pretty sure my boyfriend is in love with, crying about him. At this point I pretty much know this was the end of the relationship, probably. But for some reason I couldn't end it with him right there. With her there. Call me crazy, but I just couldn't give them the satisfaction of that. I figured I would talk to him later that day or the next day and probably end it. So I just took my things and left. Long story short, it didn't matter because Josh came over later that afternoon and broke up with me anyway. You guys were right. He basically told me this week he realized he's not in any place to be in a relationship with me, and he has a lot of things to sort out, and it's not fair for me to have to wait for him. I asked he had been sleeping with her. He said no. I asked if he loved her. He said yes. I asked if they were getting back together, and he said he didn't know, but that hadn't been discussed, and it wasn't the only reason he was breaking up with me. Probably all lies, but I have no idea and it doesn't matter anyway. I feel stupid and angry. I can't stop thinking about them together this whole week and probably now. I know I shouldn't, but she was supposed to leave today, and I really want to drive by and see if she actually did. It sucks so much and I'm devastated and want to just crawl into a hole and forget the whole thing, but I know I can't. Sorry this ending sucks so much, but thank you to everyone who commented. I might respond to comments because I don't really want to talk to anyone else about it yet. Or I might not, I don't know. TLDR. You guys were all right. A lot of drama. He loves her and broke up with me. I don't know if they're together, but probably relevant comments. Reply. Okay, well, contrary to popular opinion, I did actually read everyone's comments and I'm realizing behaved very badly. I knew it before, but I was too upset, hurt, angry to deal with it. Reddit will probably bury me for this, but I did send one last text to him this morning, saying I was sorry for how I acted, and especially for what I did to his artwork. Not in a, we might get back together way though, because I know that's not happening. I told him I was worried I ruined it with whatever broke when I threw it. He thanked me for my apology and told me it's not ruined. I broke a framed photo in there of an ultrasound picture, So yeah, I feel really shitty. Commenter 1, you've only been with the guy for 6 months. I'm sorry this happened, but it was a rather short relationship. I realize you had feelings for him, but 6 months is really not a long time to get that invested into someone. Be glad you found this out quickly and not 1 year, 2 years, or even further down the road. I don't even want to think about how this might have gone down if your boyfriend and Sarah managed to repress their shit all the way until your boyfriend was about to marry you and/or have a child with you. Commenter 2. Maybe this could have gone differently if she acted a bit better. Then again, Reddit doesn't always give the best answers. Commenter 3. I have to agree. I mean, on the one hand, yes, that is a lot for anyone to take in here with regard to the boyfriend's history with his friend. But they lost a goddamn child. Never processed that adequately, and that is just huge. OP's entire focus has always been on the relationship, her feelings, and how poorly she's being treated in this, and that's kind of awful. OP. I don't mean this in a cruel way, but I question how ready you really are to handle an adult relationship. I get that this was a big situation that blindsided you, but throwing temper tantrums and sending dramatic, passive-aggressive texts which you chose to send, no one made you, and repeatedly throwing yourself into their attempts to deal with such a tremendous loss just wasn't the way to deal with this. I think your ex did the mature and responsible thing here. He isn't ready to be in a relationship, which it sounds like he didn't know before being confronted by his past. And that's okay. But I don't think you're ready either. It sounds like he told you the truth every step of the way. You didn't trust him at all and created most of the drama here yourself. Commenter 4. He told you he needed time to work through what happened with her after he told you about the baby. He was 100% honest and asked you for space. Instead, you inserted yourself into a situation in which you didn't belong. You went over unannounced to catch them, and all you caught them doing was exactly what he told you would be happening. Also, he had 7.5 years post her and pre you to draw those pictures. Throwing them was uncalled for. Clearly this relationship is over, but next time, try to listen and respect your partner's wishes. Don't let jealousy get the best of you. Commenter 5, especially something as traumatic as the loss of a baby, whether miscarriage or stillborn. This is incredibly traumatic for both of them. And the grieving process can be so long and complex. OP. Even though placed in an odd situation. Seems like she was only absorbed in her own jealousy to be compassionate and sympathetic to either of them. This could have been handled a lot better. Commenter 6. She might have been crying because she didn't want to be approached by you about the baby situations. Randomly while on a hike. Just a thought. That's a very sensitive situation that's not easy to let someone you barely know in on. IDK if Josh told you that in confidence or not, but that's probably something I would have refrained from mentioning. It sounds like you two were on different pages entirely. You both could have handled a delicate situation much better, but it is what it is. 6mo isn't enough time for some people when it comes to sharing things like that. I waited much longer to tell my SO of a similar situation because I wasn't comfortable yet. I don't think he should have tried to cut you out of the last few days Sarah was there. But I certainly don't think that warrants throwing his work either. Just try to heal and learn from it and things will get better. Good luck OP. Stories number 5. A friend brought me 4 bottles of wine and expected a free 10-day holiday in my country. This friend would occasionally see my photos on social media, and he wanted to come visit my country. For the few years we had known each other, he never once messaged me for a catch-up. Then one day, he just suddenly messaged me saying he's coming. My partner and I were happy to have a visitor regardless. We said he could stay with us, and we could go on a road trip with him in our car. We even picked him up at the airport at 5 a.m. He showed up with 4 bottles of wine, max $7 each. We appreciated the gifts and insisted we shared the wine together on the trip. Then for the next 10 days, whenever we ate out, bought gas, paid for attractions and even hotels, he just stayed quiet and never offered to pay. Not a thank you either. We drove for 5 days over 1,000 kilometers as for hotel. I told him explicitly the costs, and he said he's fine with it. I got that the first day or two he might not have local cash, and it's okay for us to treat him to a meal or two, but for 10 days, he had free time in the city, and he could have exchanged some money to pay for himself later and pay us back for the things we paid up front for him. We asked him nicely on the 4th day how he wanted to pay us back. He said bank transfer. So we waited. Then on his last day, just 4 hours before he flew, he still mentioned nothing. I got visibly cold and upset. At this point, we had to bring it up again, show him the bill, and make him transfer right away before he left. After the trip, he messaged us thanking us for the trip, and asked if he did anything inappropriate as a guest to help him improve. Dude, I'm not your mom. therapist or teacher to teach you how to be a polite, functional adult. He's a 30-year-old software engineer working in Germany with good salary, not a teenager. Who the fuck shows up in a friend's country and not pays a penny for your own holiday? I cut him off on social media after the trip. I hope he can see why. Edit after he asked. We did tell him while he's an easygoing guest. It was awkward for us to keep asking him to pay us back, and we would appreciate a thank you for all the help we offered him. We wished him good luck, then I cut him off. We did ask for money back on day 4. We were kind to him because he told us his girlfriend just dumped him. They were supposed to come together to help him save money. We added him to our room and used local resident discounts. Hence, we had to pay for hotel up front. The last straw was when we went camping on the last day. While we prepared all the gear and some food to barbecue, he shared nothing but some Pringles that he already ate 80% of. Then he just ate our food without a thank you. Comments. Commenter 1. No victims here, just volunteers. Why you continually footed the bill is beyond reason. Commenter 2. Just actually tell him he is asking for feedback. He may be more chill about money than you are and reasons I intend to pay them. What's the big deal? You can educate him that he needs to be more upfront about costs from the beginning and pay immediately when asked. Commenter 3. Then for the next 10 days, whenever we ate out, bought gas, paid for attractions and even hotels, he just stayed quiet and never offered to pay. So why didn't you say something? This is so weird. I can see how he might think staying at your place would be free. But you guys stayed at hotels too, so as for hotel, I told him explicitly the costs, and he said he's fine with it. So then why did you pay for his hotel room? You and your partner get your room set up, room key, and then step aside and let him get his own room and stuff. I get why you're so salty, but all this could have been avoided by speaking up right then, and not paying for stuff right then. We drove for 5 days over 1,000 kilometers. This is so wild to me, like what, end of the first day? At the gas station I'd be like, okay, time for you to chip in on gas. If he stayed quiet or whatever, then I'd say, okay, then road trip is over. We'll drop you at the nearest airport, cheers. Commenter 4. I am not sure about writing out a long story on Reddit, but you cannot simply tell him that you were uncomfortable about how the precariousness of the financials. Stories number 6. My Bill 34M invited me 27F and my husband 29M to an orgy. This happened yesterday. We went to my in-laws' house to celebrate my FIL's birthday. The entire family was there, including my BIL and his wife. Now, everyone knows that they're in an open marriage and they're part of a swingers club. They're very open about that. I never had an issue with that, and neither my husband, but we never had an interest in this sort of thing at all. So imagine my surprise when my BIL, after making some small talk, told me that he was organizing a small orgy with a couple of friends and they needed 2 more people, and what do you know, me and his brother were the perfect couple for it. I never in my life felt so uncomfortable as I did in that moment. I thought that maybe he was joking, but he was completely serious. I told him that no, we weren't interested. But he just said to keep an open mind and that I should talk to my husband before giving an answer. After that, I just avoided both him and his wife, and to be honest, I didn't enjoy much of the celebration. I just kept thinking about what had happened. I don't think anyone heard it because there was a lot of noise, and I was making my way back to the living room when he showed up. There wasn't any alcohol around the house since my FIL has had issues with it in the past, so I couldn't even blame the situation on my Bill being drunk. I still haven't told my husband about it because I don't even know if I should. They both barely have a relationship due to some conflicts in the past, and I said very clearly that we weren't interested. So that should be enough, right? TLDR, Beal invited me and my husband for an orgy. I said no, but he told me to keep an open mind and talk to my husband before answering. My husband don't know about the proposal yet, and I don't know if I should tell him. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Why wouldn't you tell your husband? Reply. I don't want to create another fight between him and his brother, especially after 3 years of peace. Commenter 2. Yeah, wow. Tip of the hat to you for keeping your cool amidst a bucket of crazy. However, despite being insanely uncomfortable, it seems like you do need to discuss this with your husband. Not to reconsider your answer in the slightest, but your husband should be aware that this happened. After all, your BIL's next conversation with him might well be, so, given it any further thought? What? You know, the orgy. And then it goes downhill from there. Letting him be blindsided on that is no bueno. Also, there's also the matter that this is kind of an unwanted sexual advance on both of you. God damn, this is weird. Reply. You know I didn't think about it before since they're so distant, but since he's comfortable in proposing something like that, I don't think he's caring a lot. Commenter 3, he invited his own brother on orgy? That's next level weird. Update, I decided to give an update. Since we finally reached the end of the mess from the first post, I told my husband, shortly after I posted the story here because I was feeling very anxious and he was going to pick up on that anyway. I don't think I have to say that my husband was livid. I never saw him like that before, after a lot of talking. I ended up learning a lot about the relationship between him and Beal. To keep things short, Bil is a huge asshole who has ruined relationships for my husband in the past. The only reason he didn't ruin ours was because my husband put a lot of distance between himself and his own family. His family, by the way, always chalked it all up to sibling rivalry and never did anything to help. So I don't blame him. What happened after, my husband called Bil and asked him to not contact us anymore. He only wanted him to apologize to me for dragging me into this. Bil denied his request, saying it was just a joke and I should be able to take one like a grown-up. He hung up on us, and that was that for a few days, until we received a call from my MIL who was very angry. Bill had told her and my FIL what had happened, and that he was very upset that he couldn't even make jokes without my husband making a big deal out of it. So MIL was calling to say that we and my BIL's family weren't going to be invited to family gatherings anymore until everything was solved. I told my husband about the call, and he was surprisingly calm this time around, saying that it was the usual behavior and that if I wanted to, he would make an effort, but he didn't care very much. At this point, I was angry myself because I never saw this behavior in his family before and it was extremely frustrating. I told him not to bother, and that it would be up to him to decide. We kept mostly to ourselves since, and nobody reached out to us either, until Monday, when my FIL called us to say that BL was invited to spend Christmas with the family because his wife was pregnant. He only wanted to make sure that we knew this because he didn't want us showing up to ruin everyone's good time. Me and my husband ended up laughing about it later because it was so absurd. But I noticed that it has taken a toll on my husband's mood, and I'm debating suggesting therapy for him, because I feel like there's a lot he doesn't feel comfortable telling me. We're going to spend Christmas with my parents, and I hope my husband will be able to tune out from this entire situation and have a good time. TLDR, BIL said it was a joke, but he was offended that we didn't take it as such. Shared with the family what had happened, and everyone ended up getting banned from family gatherings. Except now BL can go home for Christmas because his wife is pregnant. We cannot because we would ruin the party. Edit 1. I didn't expect this to get the attention it did. I've been reading the comments, and I want to say thank you to everyone who shared resources to help us moving forward. A lot of people have also been telling their own stories, and I can't answer them all but know that I read it and your advices are being heard. This has helped me to get some perspective as I cannot share what happened with my close friends. My husband is aware of this post, and he will read it in his own time. Right now, we will be focusing on the holidays, and he would rather deal with it once the celebrations are over. Thank you once again to everyone. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Sounds like you are both best off separating yourselves from his family. WTF kind of mom enables sex jokes to her daughter-in-law from her other son? IMNC with my sister and VLC with my dad over their jokes and other issues that could be resolved with a simple apology. I don't know what the right answer is for your husband. If he wants to do therapy, by all means. Me? There's no level of therapy that will give me a decent family, so I've long detached myself and moved on. Reply, yeah, I'm not going to lie. I'm still weirded out after going through it because I could never do that sort of stuff to a family member and be so unapologetic about, I'm sorry about your experience. I hope you found your own peace and comfort with people that you enjoy. Commenter 2, your husband should take his parents' calls. It shouldn't go through you. Reply, oh, I didn't take any calls directed to him. Mill called me instead of calling my husband. It sounded a lot like, I did my part, now do yours. Fiel called my husband. Commenter 3, therapy might help. Hugs, kisses, affection and intimacy may be all he really needs. The real shame is that it seems the BIL has reproduced. Reply, oh, definitely. I started pushing for dates more often, and now he is the one that suggests it. He also was talking about a trip to a place we've been dying to go. The therapy would be more if he wants a place to vent in case he doesn't feel comfortable telling me yet. He doesn't speak a lot about his past, especially family-wise. I always found it odd, but now I might understand why. Stories number 7. AITA for demanding that my husband pick my needs over his parents and let them feel cold for a bit. I 35F am currently 37 weeks pregnant, and due for a planned C-section at the end of the week due to some complications with my baby. My husband's 35M parents are here to help with the newborn baby, since they have come through. All that has happened is that I now have to cook for 4 instead of 2 and clean up after everyone. But these are not the major issues. The issue is that they can't stand the cold. It's currently autumn where I am, and going into winter. I warned them before they came that it will be cold. The house it's heated to 20°C, but that doesn't seem to be enough for them. And she complains about the cold at least 5 times a day. Now I have been running hot, probably because of the pregnancy, and 20°C is borderline too much for me. I'm walking around in my summer clothes. I've asked them and given them extra layers to put on so they feel warmer, which until yesterday she refused to put on. Last night they visited some relatives and I didn't go, as I was feeling too tired, and she took the opportunity to complain to my husband about how cold she's been feeling. So the moment he came home at night, he turned on the heater. I warned him that it would get too hot at night for me. But he said what else was he supposed to do, and kept the heater on. He turned it off before he slept, but it was so hot for me last night that I sweated through my clothes and bedclothes. And it isn't just this. When I said that we shouldn't have outside visitors till the baby gets his vaccinations because of his complications, and that no one should be allowed to kiss him on the face, he argued with me over it, saying that if someone was sick they would let us know, and only that person could be excluded. He did the same with me when I said that the midwives insisted that the baby should be sleeping in a room no warmer than 20°C. He argued with me that the kids in the tropics sleep in warmer rooms. And when his mom randomly dropped in the middle of a casual conversation that she was going to be carrying out an old tradition for the baby on the 28th day, he didn't even object and just accepted it. Now we had discussed this particular tradition previously, and he was totally against it then. But when his mom brought it up, he said that if she does it, it won't hurt anybody and it'll make her happy, which is true. But I said that if we don't set any boundaries in the beginning, then more and more of these traditions will crop up. What pisses me off about the things like the visitors is that I'm only saying it to protect the baby, and it could actually harm the baby, and he still argues with me about it. He says it's just a discussion, but to me it feels like he thinks I'm being irrational and paranoid. I told him that I don't feel like he's on my team, and I'm being forced to do all the adjusting while he looks after his parents' comfort. He says I should just adjust for a while till they can adjust to being here. Am I overreacting here? Aita, Edit 1. My husband has been generally supportive throughout my pregnancy and the complications we've had with the baby. His parents are nice people and I generally like them. They've traveled halfway across the world to be here and can't be told to go back just like that. He's trying to keep the peace, but all compromises seem to be falling on me. Edit 2. Usually it would have been my folks who came to help, but my mom passed away a couple of years ago, and my sister will be here in February to help out. Comments. Commenter 1. Oh honey. You having to cook for 4 people instead of 2 and doing all the cleanup already is a major issue. You are heavily pregnant. You should be the one catered to and not the one catering. Your husband is clearly a mommy's boy. He has repeatedly shown he will choose his mother over you. You need at least one person in your life who will put you first. He isn't that person, so be that person for yourself. Stop putting up with this nonsense. Edit. NTA Commenter 2. Stop cooking instead of receiving help. I'm cooking and cleaning for 4, not 2. And you've prioritized your mom's refusal to put a sweater on over your 38-week pregnant wife. The help you're promising isn't going to be them grabbing the baby. It's going to be cooking, cleaning, grocery shopping, laundry, yard work, right? Use your voice. I don't need your help with the baby. I need all the floors swept and the garbage taken out and your guest bedroom tidied. Commenter 3. You have a husband problem. Tell him either they're here to help, so he and they do the laundry, shopping, cooking and cleaning, or they leave and he does these tasks. You're done caring for 2 extra people. You could make him wear a 50 LB vest for the weekend, can't take it off, so he gets a very, very small taste of what you're going through. Commenter 4. NTA. But if his parents are there to help, what exactly are they helping with if you're doing all the cooking and cleaning while they complain about the temperature? Edit. Your husband also needs to learn that keeping the peace with difficult people only comes at the expense of your own. Stories number 8. I told my stepmom that I don't care that my hair stresses her out. When I F16 was 12, my mom 39 met a guy from her work and left us. My dad was working long hours, so I guess she got lonely. She is now married to that guy, moved to his home country, and they have a baby boy together. I tried to video chat with her a few times, but she later told me her husband does not like it. She asked me to stop calling and said she would call me when she has time and is alone. So we hardly ever talk anymore. My dad M41 met Hannah F27 and now they are married. She is pregnant with a boy and we all live together. Hannah and I are civil. My dad works long hours and he told me that when he is not home, Hannah is basically my parent, and I have to listen to her. Normally, I stay in my room doing schoolwork, or I am on my phone. Hannah usually only calls me when she needs me to do chores. Here is the issue. I have wavy curly hair. My whole life I either straightened it or kept it in a ponytail. Recently, I found the curly hair subreddit and decided to embrace my natural texture. It has been a learning curve, but I have posted a few times and gotten great tips. Hannah hates my hair. I would not care about her comments if she were not so persistent. At first, she compared it to Sideshow Bob from The Simpsons. Then she suggested I get a keratin treatment. I told her no. I like my hair. She got me a hair straightener from a local but nothing group on Facebook. I told her I don't want it. She got upset and said my hair looks like a pile of mess and called it gross. I told her I shower daily and wash my hair twice a week so it is not gross. She said my hair stresses her out. I got fed up and said, I do not care. Maybe if you were not so obsessed with my hair you would not be stressed out. She got mad and called me an ungrateful little bitch. Then she said she wished she could get rid of me like my mom did, and that I should feel lucky she even cares about my ugly hair. She told me to go to my room until my dad gets home. Now I am sitting here wondering if I was out of line. I am sure my dad will be mad because I made her cry. Hannah even screamed that I stressed her out and it's bad for the baby. My hair might be frizzy, but I do not like to straighten it. Comments, commenter 1 dude, NTA, straight up. Her issues ain't bout your hair. Sounds more like she needs a reality check. Being pregnant doesn't give her the ticket to call you names or play victim. Your hair, your rules, keep rocking them curls. Girl commenter 2. What an evil outlook she has. I think she would find something else to complain about if it wasn't your hair. I'm so sorry. Commenter 3 NTA. Do you have an adult you trust to be able to have your back if you talk with your dad and his wife? You need another on your side so they behave because it doesn't sound like they do so otherwise. Commenter 4 OP. Tell your dad what she said. She is not your parent, she is your dad's wife. Do you have grandparents or aunts and uncles around? How about a long-term bestie? I'm thinking anytime you can spend elsewhere, do it. Spend the nights, evening and weekends as much as possible away from your dads. Stories number 9. AITA for proving to my boyfriend the nerds never cared about the popular kids in high school. My boyfriend and I, both 25, went to the same high school. My boyfriend was talking about our high school days. He thought high school me would have been thrilled to date the popular guy because I was a nerd, mind you. We're 25 and it's 2024. I played along for a bit until I realized he wasn't joking. He literally thought that. I told him that I didn't know he existed. He was surprised and said that he was a popular kid. He played football and was in the popular crowd. He said that I must have been lying. I told him that the nerds never cared about the popular kids in high school, because we were fiercely competing amongst ourselves for college admissions. For a backstory on our town, my boyfriend was born and raised there, but I only moved when I was 13, along with a bunch of other high-achieving kids. That's because an engineering company opened up a branch near that town and brought in a ton of engineers and their families. So it was a sleepy town with a big high school that suddenly got a ton of competitive kids. And I mean insanely competitive. Nobody had time to think about popular kids or really anything but college admissions. I was only getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night regularly. Sports like football or cheerleading, which required 5 days a week of training at school, were out of the question. And I saw the same people regularly because we were all in the same classes. So all of the drama was contained within that group of 50, 100 or so students. It paid off for me. I got into a top college and had no student loans. It was literally cheaper than the state school. And despite my auto-generated username, I do have a good job that I enjoy. My BF said I'm lying. I don't like being called a liar, so I literally reached out to all of my high school nerd friends and, yep, they didn't know the popular group and the ins and outs of the dynamics like my BF thought. A few people recognized some names, but like I said, we were really focused on competing with each other. He got quiet when I proved my case. He said I humiliated him and I proved my point and we should never mention high school again. I talked with his sister and she said that high school was a special experience for him and I ruined his memories. AITA. Relevant comments, commenter INTA. I won't echo the peaked in high school thing, cause while it may have an echo of truth, I also think it's reductive. I think it's more important for your boyfriend to realize that the reason nerds bond together in places like high school, and why weirdos, nerds, freaks, geeks, self-identify as such despite implied social stigma, is that it's a conscious act of defiance against the notion that their self-worth is solely defined by the dominant social hierarchy. Reply, I'm going to be really honest here. It was not about defiance in any way for us. In fact, we played more heavily into a social hierarchy measured by the prestige of your college and perceived pathway. It was a very competitive and unhealthy environment. The reason I or other people didn't care about popular kids or freaks or weirdos, because they weren't competitors. If my boyfriend was a student athlete who had great stats, we would all have known and cared. It's not a good thing, but it's the reality of many high-achieving students in high schools. Commenter 2 NTA, but why does your BF feel a need for others to validate his high school experience? Why can't he just remember it as he did and that be that? Nothing's changed. Add it to say, these are rhetorical questions for OP. We all already know the answer. Commenter 3 NTA. It begs the question why your BF feels the need to feel superior in your relationship. Reply, he doesn't really have a superiority complex. He just saw those TikToks talking about my BF IGF in high school versus me, and thought about us because we were in high school. On the flip side, he loves those jokes about one person having a silly job like him, while their partner has a serious job with real-world ramifications. I think he just liked the idea of me having a crush on him in high school back in the day, when life wasn't complicated and real. Commenter 4 Inta, I also agree with you. I went to a huge high school with around 600 kids in each grade, so 2,4K total. I honestly didn't even know a lot of the kids in my grade and really just stuck to my group of about 50 kids. We were the emo kids. We could have cared less about any other groups of kids, and couldn't tell if anyone was popular. Reply, that was so similar to my experience. At our graduation I was like, UTF are those people. It's not like the smart kids tried to stick together though. Being in the same classes in ECs all the time does that to you. Most of us absolutely hated each other. Commenter 5. I wonder if he has implied or said that he noticed you in high school. There may be non-popularity aspects here. Is he romanticizing your attraction? Was expecting that you had noticed him, and he is now hesitant to admit that he had noticed you in high school. Maybe a sense of destiny. His internal sense of, we were meant to be? It might be too charitable, but it might be worth exploring whether this has messed with his internal narrative of your romance being something that could have begun before it began. Reply, at the very least he knew who I was in senior year. I was the first student in like 30 years to get into a certain college, and it was all over Snapchat. A few other students had similar accomplishments, so the school thought it was a great idea to plaster our pictures at the front of the school, as well as put it on the school district website for months. My BF joked that he fell in love with me because of the god-awful picture they posted. It was literally the ugliest photo I had ever seen. Mustache and eye bags on full display. This was also the school that stapled a list of colleges seniors were going to in their front hallway. Back in the day, it would be a cute way to see where your classmates were going, but when it became competitive, it was basically a mark of shame for kids, which was honestly a shame and quite sad. Update, this is crazy. I didn't expect so many wild replies. It's already on TikTok. I know my BF isn't a loser still stuck in his glory days in high school, so I talked to him and asked why he was upset at me not knowing him in high school. Well, he told me he did have a passing hallway crush on me, mustache, eye bags, and all, which was flattering to hear. He felt defensive because I kind of stomped all over his daydreams of fleeting thoughts of each other. He also literally thought I was lying because he knew of me, and he thought wrongly that I would know him. I hate being called a liar, which made me go on the warpath. Don't worry, I didn't tell my friends why I was asking about my BF's friend group, but they'll probably figure it out. He apologized and we hugged it out. Honestly, these comments were really wild. People were salivating over my BF being this apparent loser jock character. I wasn't making a statement about anything. My BF and I just ran in different social groups, neither better nor worse than the other. Well, maybe mine was slightly more toxic. We had different social experiences, with good and bad points. I can't believe the number of stereotypes about nerds, which I never considered myself, or popular kids in these comments. I was definitely not taking a social stance by not noticing the popular kids. They weren't in my radar. I missed way more days of school than my BF for competitions for my clubs. As a boring person, I didn't have any drama, but I witnessed a lot. There were always parties and sneaking around, but there was always this undercurrent of stress that dominated my school life. I don't regret high school, and I'm grateful for the opportunities and experiences, but I don't want to go back. I'm not better or worse than my BF because of my high school experience. We're all just people at the end of the day. Stories number 10. AITA for going off on my friend for getting mad at me because I won't hang out with his cheater girlfriend. I was asked by a friend of mine to stop by his place and grab some stuff one day a few months ago since I had a spare key. Nobody was supposed to be there since his girlfriend works at that time, but when I got there, her car and a truck I didn't recognize were in the driveway. Immediately assumed the worst and was right. Took a few pictures of the truck and car in the driveway, then went in to confront her, and she was half naked on the couch with another guy. Snapped a few pics and left before she could get dressed and chase me down. Immediately called my friend and let him know what I saw. Met up and showed him the pictures. He was heartbroken but said he'd started to suspect things a few weeks prior, so he wasn't too surprised. He confronts her and she gives the usual cheater BS. It was a mistake. Only happened once. I love you, he meant nothing. However, she couldn't keep up the lie and was forced to admit she'd done it with another guy a few months previously, and that same guy I caught here with the night before when she was staying late at work, but was actually at her side piece's house. He broke up with her and kicked her out of his place. Seemed to be doing better until a couple weeks later he gets lonely and takes her back. Now they are together again, and I've stopped hanging out when she's around, so I don't see him as much anymore. We had the following exchange when we met up for lunch, and I'm wondering if I was too harsh. This isn't word for word, but it's the best I can pull from memory. Him: why don't you come over anymore? We barely hang out, me. You know why? I'm not hanging out with or around your girl. She's a cheater and I don't hang out with cheaters. Also, she fucking hates me because I'm the one that caught her stepping out on you, remember? Him: she doesn't hate you. I forgave her. It's fine. So just come over tonight and we can hang out. She wants you over there too. Me: not happening. I hope you're happy with her, but I think she's trash, and I'd rather sit in a room by myself than pretend she's not a total piece of shit, just so you can act like everything is okay. Him: why the hell do you care? She didn't cheat on you. He was getting visibly worked up at this point, and I was probably looking about the same. Me: look, if you want to sweep this shit under the rug and keep pretending things are fine while she figures out how to get some side dick again without getting caught, that's your choice. But I can never pretend that I didn't walk in on her half naked with another man. And I can't pretend that you aren't an idiot for taking her back when she obviously is going to cheat again and has no respect for you. Hell, I have less respect for you for taking her back. We sat in angry silence for a minute before I left, and since then it's been mostly quiet. Got a text asking if I really think she's a horrible person, and I replied, yes, she's a horrible person. I hate her, and hope one day you're smart enough to leave her. But until then, I'll be keeping my distance from you as well. And that's been about it. A few of our mutual friends hung out with them recently and they say it's super awkward. My friend tries to get them to interact with her, but they also don't like her. They're just too polite to say anything to his face about it. So getting to the judgment I need, have I been too harsh here? Was I an asshole for snapping at him like that after everything that happened? Should I have just played nice and just made excuses not to hang out instead? Commenter 1: NTA cheaters are disgusting, and frankly I'd be the same. If he wants to forgive her, that's fine. But you don't have to. You don't have to hang around anyone you don't want to hang around with, and nobody can tell you or not tell you who to be around. Reply: for the record, I understand that I'm not an asshole for wanting to distance myself from his girlfriend. I'm mostly worried about how harsh I was when we met up and got into our argument. That's where I think I might have crossed a line. Commenter 2: know you were a true friend. Frankly, he's lucky to have you. We all need someone who will have our back, even if having their back means giving them the harsh truth. No true friend would let their friend continue to be a doormat. Just don't give up on the guy when he eventually catches her cheating again, and/or she dumps him. He'll need his friends because she obviously has some kind of hold on him. Commenter 3: NTA for being harsh to your friend. Is it possible she's changed? Not without putting in the hard work of therapy and redemption. She didn't do any of that. Your friend and his third leg got lonely, so he decided to getting his third leg a workout was more important than his pride and self-respect. Update: a month ago, I came here to get some perspective on a potential falling out with a friend of mine over him taking back his girlfriend after I caught her cheating on him, and she admitted to doing it multiple times. I stopped hanging out with him after we got into an argument over me not wanting to hang out with his cheater girlfriend. Things played out almost exactly how I figured they would, and I'm feeling pretty validated in my disdain for his now ex. After our fight, my friend and I barely spoke to each other outside of a few texts. Then I got a call from him yesterday, letting me know he kicked her out. He told me he'd only taken her back after several weeks of her begging and promising to do whatever it took to win his trust back. One of the conditions of him taking her back was full access to her phone, laptop, and game console without complaint. He said at first she was happy to comply, but after a few weeks, he noticed her acting suspicious, and when he went to check her phone, she'd changed the passcode from the one they'd agreed on for him to get in. When confronted, she started screaming at him and telling him she'd done enough to prove herself, so he needs to back off. He immediately dumped her and kicked her out. Said she immediately backtracked and tried to hand her phone over when she realized he was serious. But the damage was done. Said he was almost relieved she acted like this because it made the decision easier. I came over and helped him move all her stuff into boxes for her to pick up. I wasn't there when she came to get everything, but his sister was there and had to get between them because his ex kept trying to kiss him one last time, while awkwardly dragging boxes of her stuff out to her car. I'm sad I didn't get to be there. Apparently she ugly cried most of the time. I'm gonna head over to his place after work to drink and play video games to get his mind off things. He's a dumbass, but I think he's finally learned his lesson about her. I just hope his next girl is loyal and doesn't talk so goddamn much during movies. Comments? Commenter 1 NTA. It's too hard to look her in the face while she's destroying your friend. He came back and he knows you're a good friend. Reply. More importantly, he knows he's a dumbass. But he's a lovable dumbass. Commenter 2. He has such low self-esteem that he accepts cheating and emotional abuse to the extent it damages his relationships with friends. He needs help, like professional help at this point. Commenter 3 NTA. You shouldn't be forced to hang out with people you don't like or respect. And I'm glad he finally has the blinders off. You sound like a good friend who was watching his back, but sometimes people in love or lust are really dumb and you just have to be there to pick up the pieces. But the fact that she talks during movies would have been a deal breaker. That's just wrong. Reply. If there weren't explosions and fight scenes on the screen, she'd immediately get bored and try and talk to people about random stuff. It was so bizarre. She'd even do it with movies she picked. Commenter 4. I usually pause the TV if someone is talking or if I have something to say. It drives my daughter nuts, but I find it annoying trying to watch a show with someone talking. I'm glad your friend finally saw the light. Sometimes dumbasses take longer to see the light. Thus why they are called dumbasses. Reply. That sounds like a much more efficient method than my solution. I just waited until she blew up the relationship a second time and removed herself more permanently. I'm honestly looking forward to movie nights again. Commenter 5. You're a damn good friend. I hope he appreciates you. Reply. I'm splurging on the good pizza and beer tonight. He'd better appreciate it. Commenter 6. Nice. Can we be friends too? Reply. Only if you stay away from your cheating ex and don't stomp us too bad at Smash Bros. Commenter 7. Haha, you got it, buddy. Stories number 11. My husband M32 said that feminist women end up with cats because they are not wifey material, and told me it reminded him of me F29 earlier today. My husband mentioned a podcast he listened to. He said the hosts talked about how successful feminist women usually end up alone with their cats because they're not wifey material. Then he looked at me and said it reminded him of me, because, according to him, women like that can't handle the unfair roles that naturally exist between men and women in relationships. We've been arguing a lot lately, mostly because of his double standards. Recently, we had a fight because he wanted to attend an erotic fair for his business. Apparently, there would be live sex acts there, literally people having sex. And mind you, this man is Muslim and constantly preaches modesty to me. He told me he did his research and claimed they only sold sex toys, nothing more. But when I checked the event's own website, it clearly stated that there would be live acts. When I brought that up, he got angry and said I was fucking annoying for researching it, telling me, just let me explore and fall on my head on my own. The hypocrisy is exhausting. If I ever did something even remotely similar, he would absolutely lose it. He didn't even discuss it with me before buying the tickets. Just bought them with his business partner and told me about it a day before. He eventually didn't go because we argued. And here's what makes it even more frustrating. I clean the house almost every day. Cook, wash his clothes, clean his car. All while working full-time. He helps sometimes, but I still carry most of the load. So when he says that successful feminist women end up with cats because they can't deal with unfair gender roles, and then tells me it reminds him of me, it feels like he's mocking me for not accepting inequality. While I'm already doing everything to keep things together, I feel disrespected, unheard, and honestly just tired. I don't even know if this is a marriage I recognize anymore. How can I make this marriage bearable for 3 more years? I just need 3 more years to flee and have no worries financial-wise. Comments. Commenter 1. I'm sure there's a lot of cultural things I'm missing due to the Muslim part, but what exactly do you get out of this marriage? He doesn't even seem to like you by that comment about ending up alone like you. As if that's something you should be so afraid of. You should stay with a worthless man who disrespects his wife by wanting to go to a porn conference. I just want you to think about how short life is, and for the few years you have on this planet, is this the life you want? Is this the marriage you'd want for your daughter? Commenter 2, honestly, I'd rather have cats than be with a person like your husband. Cats are great. Your husband? Not so much. Can you leave earlier than 3 years? There's so many things that can go wrong for you in 3 years. Take care to not have kids if you're planning to leave him, and you need to stop caring about what he says and his insults. Basically, gray rock him. I'd strive to get out earlier. Commenter 3. Being called wifey material is the biggest insult to me. And I have a partner and child, alone, with cats. No one to clean up after sounds like my idea of heaven. Commenter 4. I'm curious as to how this dynamic didn't come up while you were dating. Usually misogynist assholes can't keep that hidden for too long. The mask slips. It sounds like you plan to leave the guy regardless. So focus your energy on your exit plan. I don't quite understand why you think you have to wait 3 years. But if that's what you have to do, go into roommate mode. Stop doing all those things for him. Stop having sex. Stop questioning him or engaging in any of this. Just wait it out, reply, because hopefully within the next 1 to 3 years, I'll finish my master's and secure a great job in data science. In the meantime, I'm trying to save as much money as possible. That's why I'm currently working full-time. But I'll have to stop in a few months. After that, we'll be living on a single income for about 2 years until I complete my studies. With that budget, renting a proper place isn't realistic. So waiting it out is my best option for now. Stories number 12. 8th for walking out on a dinner with my husband's sister and her boyfriend. So my 34F husband, 32M, is the youngest in his family. We've been married for a little less than a year now. But I noticed his eldest sister, 37F, is super difficult and controlling. My husband has warned me about her, let's call her H, ever since we met. And he was even super nervous before he introduced me to her. I made sure to be super nice and courteous, and we hit it off. Especially that we realized we know a lot of the same people from our similar field of work. Over time, I noticed H's toxic behavior with her siblings. Especially with my husband, since he's extremely peaceful and non-confrontational. She would disrespect him a lot, give unsolicited commands. She even keeps commenting about how much attention he gives me, and how she thinks we're super codependent, and that he needs to give me less attention. We are not codependent at all. We just really enjoy hanging out with each other and prefer doing things together. Yesterday, H and her boyfriend were visiting. She lives in another country, and she wanted us all to meet him for the first time. My husband was with them by himself for an hour or so, and while his brother, his wife, and I were on the way to meet them, my husband kept texting me, saying he felt like a third wheel, and they weren't really involving him in the conversation. We finally get there, and we meet them, and we are deciding where to have dinner. We quickly noticed how chaotic H was acting, ordering us around to call restaurants and check for bookings, to go this way or that way, to hurry up because it was late and we needed to eat. My husband, H, and boyfriend and I were sharing a car, and my husband was driving to the restaurant. We were chatting, and it was normal, until H decided to make fun of my husband and his slow driving, and kept being super annoying to hurry up and drive faster. She even kept interrupting her boyfriend when he was telling stories to tell my husband to hurry up. Then when the brother and his wife called to say they arrived, and we still had 15 minutes to get there, H went full-blown bully, kept disrespecting my husband in front of the boyfriend, and my husband was trying his best to bite his tongue. It was so obvious that we all got so uncomfortable, especially the boyfriend who kept saying, "It's okay guys that we're taking longer, we're enjoying the conversation." The last straw for me was when we got to the area, and it was so crowded and my husband was trying to make a U-turn to get to the restaurant, and H told him to stop here so she and her boyfriend can get out and walk to the restaurant before we can go and find parking. And my husband couldn't stop because there were cars moving all around. She threw a tantrum and kept berating my husband for not being able to stop on the spot when she wanted him to. It ruined the whole mood. Eventually, my husband stopped a little further down the road and they stepped out. I was so upset and almost tearful walking into the restaurant, and my husband kept calming me down, saying it doesn't matter and he doesn't care what she says. I told him she ruined our mood by being disrespectful, and I'm not going to mask being happy so she can have a fun night. We sit at the table and we were obviously in a bad mood. And H turns to my husband and says, "Are you guys okay?" And he says, "Yes, we're just tired and hungry." She noticed how I'm not engaging in the conversation at all, and she turns to my husband again and says, "If you guys don't want to be here, no one is forcing you, can leave. We came here to have a good time." I turn to her and say, "What did you say to my husband?" She says, "I was telling him how if you guys don't want to be here, I don't want to force you. You can leave." And I say personally, "Yes, I don't want to be here and I will leave." My husband then says to the group, "Okay guys, we're heading out. Enjoy the rest of the dinner. It was a pleasure meeting you, boyfriend," and we walk out. My husband agrees with me that she was out of line, but he hates being in any kind of conflict and is stressed out about the situation. I feel like setting boundaries is very important, even if it means having to be in a fight or whatever. Was I the asshole for instigating walking out and causing a rift between my husband and his sister, and making her look bad in front of her boyfriend? Comments. Commenter 1 NTA. She will never see or understand how she makes other people feel. I hope you and your husband can do everything to minimize contact with her for your own good. Reply. When we spoke after, I told my husband that I can't keep tolerating how she treats you without putting a stop to it. I told him that next time she treats you with disrespect, we need to remove ourselves from the situation, until she learns that she can't have a relationship with us if she's disrespectful to any of us. Commenter 2. She was testing her brother's boundaries in front of her boyfriend to show dominance. You called her bluff now. Her boyfriend knows exactly what she's like, and your husband knows what it feels like to be defended. Win-win. Reply. Funny thing is, literally the same day over lunch, she was talking about how she hates toxic masculinity, and how she had to adopt aggressive tactics at work so that people can take her seriously. And that's why she's not married still, because men don't like tough women. Who's gonna tell her? Commenter 3. Why would either of you tolerate her behavior and bullying? The moment she got in his car and started being rude, why didn't he pull over and tell her to stop being disrespectful or she can get out and walk? Reply. They all value family way more than they should. Especially my husband. And to him, he has tried talking to her many times about the way she treats him, and she never changes. They even stopped talking for a whole year because of it. Eventually, he started to just ignore it and let it slide and not cause any issues. Because he values his family over his own boundaries being respected. To me, I'm new to the family, so I'm trying my best to handle these situations without crossing any lines. Commenter 4. So many posts boil down to, I let people walk all over me, and now they walk all over me. Your husband needs to assert himself and change a crappy dynamic. It's not easy, but nothing will change till he changes it. If you do it, sis will use anything to drive a wedge between you two. Reply. That is so true, and that's what I'm worried about. In her mind, she'll think I'm a bad influence, and things were fine before I married her brother. I need to speak to him about this, and thank you for bringing it up. Update. AITA for walking out on a dinner with my husband's sister and boyfriend. So around a week ago, I posted here about my 34F husband's 32M sister H, 36F. I wanted to get an outside perspective on her behavior, and if I'm valid for walking out on a dinner where she was introducing her new boyfriend to us because she was being extremely rude to my husband and I. Everyone told me that I had the right to walk out, and she was being extremely rude, which made me feel sane, because sometimes I feel like I'm crazy with my reactions to very obvious instances of disrespect that the whole family seems to brush off. Anyways, so after the incident, I talked to my husband and told him that I will not tolerate disrespect from H, and what she did was extremely out of line. I also told him that it is extremely upsetting when she disrespects him, and while I understand his stance on being the bigger person, a line needs to be drawn with her. He agreed and said he will talk to her. Next day, they had a day planned with the boyfriend, which I thankfully apologized from before this whole thing happened. My husband's brother Jay called him before the outing, and we all discussed what happened. Jay tried to explain how H doesn't have bad intentions, etc. And I told him that I never said H was malicious. I just think as adults, when someone is disrespectful, the bare minimum is to acknowledge and apologize. After a long back and forth, they agreed that Jay will ask H to have a conversation about what happened with Jay present before going to their thing, and I told them I don't think I should be part of this conversation since I'm not part of the family, and I personally wouldn't want to initiate the conversation with her. When I saw my husband after, he told me the conversation went very well, and that she was super receptive and empathetic. She apologized to my husband, and she told him she was very worried that I judged her negatively based on this incident. My husband told her that you can talk to her about it. She is a very understanding and empathetic person and will hear you out. I was happy for my husband, but very skeptical, honestly speaking, and knowing how narcissists think. She only apologized to my husband, and acted understanding because she didn't want me to judge her further. Anyways, I told my husband of course she can talk to me anytime. I waited, and she never reached out, lol. My husband hinted at me initiating, and I freaked out on him, telling him in what world does it make sense for me to initiate this talk. If she has a pride problem, then it's her problem. Fast forward to yesterday, which was her last day. After a long day at work where I finished at 7:30 p.m., my husband tells me they are having a family dinner at their parents' at 8 p.m. to say goodbye to H. I told him that I don't have the mental capacity for that right now, especially knowing that there might be an back and forth with H, and especially not knowing how she plans to bring it up or decides to deal with it considering her pride issue. I texted in the family group that I apologize for not being able to make it today and wished H safe travels. My husband goes without me. And apparently H brings up the fact that I didn't come and they all have a talk about it. As I suspected, H is now saying that she doesn't think she was rude to me at all, and she has no reason to apologize to me. My husband tells her that she was in fact rude, and she in fact needs to apologize. H suddenly twists the narrative and talks about how since the day she met me, she has been trying to build a relationship with me, but I don't reciprocate. No idea what she's talking about here, since I'm the one who pushes my husband to give her attention. And I'm the one who pushed that instead of getting her generic flowers for her birthday this year. We should pitch in and get her a personal antique item that she would enjoy. Besides, this argument has nothing to do with the main issue. Anyways, long story short, I know I've been petty with not initiating and now going to the dinner, but I think it's a matter of principle also. I told my husband that if she doesn't want to reach out and talk, then that's something she is deciding, and I won't try and solve this issue for her. Commenter 1, you're not the AH here. Not going to the goodbye dinner was actually very responsible of you. There had been no contact and no conversation with H if you went. Either there would have been a confrontation, or you would have been made to feel even worse by H and her narcissistic attitude towards the entire situation. H has left and you really shouldn't give her any more brain space. She's not worth it. Commenter 2, and if the family involves themselves, I am confident everyone in the family knows how disrespectful and downright nasty H is towards husband when she gets in a mood. Other people in her life may accept her as she is, but I have no intention of tolerating her obnoxiously toxic behavior. If she wants to pretend the problem is me, rather than her personality, I feel no need to inject myself into that, as I'd be shocked if anyone who knows us both believes her. I have no issue being around her if she behaves herself. But we won't ever have a relationship so long as she treats my husband like dirt. Commenter 3. Drop the rope. Don't reach out to her, ever again, in fact. Don't suggest visits or gifts or cards. Your husband can manage his own relationship with her, and if you choose to be in her presence at any point in the future, be cordial and polite but distant. Don't engage with her. She will always be the victim, and you will always be wrong. She isn't worth your time or headspace. Commenter 4 NTA. The reason H talks to your husband like that is because he allows it. He needs to shut her down or remove himself from the situation. Her behavior is completely unacceptable and immature. She sounds insufferable, and frankly I'm surprised she has a BF. Even he sounded like he was embarrassed regarding the entire situation. You seem to have a good head on your shoulders, and you are absolutely correct in how you've dealt with her. She can apologize if she wants a relationship with you, otherwise adios H, but usually with individuals like H, she'll say she's sorry and go right back to speaking to you both that way. She's an AITA Stories number 13. AITA for admitting to my husband that I've been lying to him about our daughter since she was in 7th grade. IF41 have been married to my husband M43 for almost 20 years. We have 4 kids, our oldest daughter F20, our oldest son M19, and our twins F16 and M16. We've always been a close family, but when it comes to how my husband treats our kids, there's a big imbalance, especially between how he treats our sons and our daughters. He's a loving, devoted father, but he cannot handle the idea of his daughters growing up. He still sees them as little girls who need to be protected from everything, while he treats our sons like budding adults who are allowed to make mistakes, date, and learn from them. It's like he's living in 2 different parenting realities under the same roof. When our oldest daughter turned 18 and admitted she was sexually active, he completely lost it. He actually took her bedroom door off its hinges for 2 days, until he could trust her again. He eventually apologized, put the door back, and admitted he overreacted. But it definitely made her hate her dad just a little. So then I realized that if I wanted to keep trust with our younger daughter, I couldn't handle things the same way. So when our daughter, one of the twins, started showing interest in boys back in 7th grade, I made a conscious decision. I was going to let her be open with me. I didn't want her to feel like she had to sneak around or lie to her parents. I told her that as long as she was safe, honest, and smart, I'd always be in her corner. So that meant keeping some things from my husband. It started small. Crushes, hand-holding, texting. Then came her first kiss, her first real boyfriend. And yes, I helped her sneak her boyfriends in and out of the house a few times over the years. Before anyone calls me irresponsible, I'd rather know what's going on than have her doing it behind my back or out somewhere unsafe. The truth is, I remember being a teenager. The stricter your parents are, the better you get at hiding things, the more you say no, the harder they'll push for yes. And to be clear, I do the same thing for our son, because both of them can get into serious trouble if they're careless. My son can get girls pregnant, and my daughter can get pregnant. It's a two-way street. I'd rather be a parent who knows what's happening and can guide them through it safely than one who pretends it's not happening until it's too late. Last year, both twins were invited to a party. This is important. They called me halfway through while panicked, because they realized there were drugs and alcohol there. They hadn't touched anything, just wanted to leave. I picked them up immediately, made them take a quick sober test at home all clean, and told them I was proud they called me instead of staying. I didn't tell my husband at the time because I knew how he'd react. He would have grounded them for life, especially our daughter, even though both of them handled the situation perfectly. Fast forward to last week, my husband was at the mall on his lunch break and saw our daughter kissing her boyfriend. He came home absolutely furious, saying he couldn't believe she's doing that in public and demanding to know since when she's been that kind of girl. I tried to stay calm and said, "I know." That was it. He exploded. He kept asking what I meant, and I finally told him everything. That I've known about her dating since 7th grade, that she's had boyfriends, that I've helped her navigate it all, and that yes, I've even helped her sneak them in and out because I'd rather be aware than ignorant. He went ballistic. He accused me of tag-teaming him with our kids for years, undermining him as a parent, and teaching our daughter to be deceitful. He's been sleeping in the guest room since, barely talking to me. Then, because I wanted to be completely honest now that everything was out, I told him about the party last year. That I picked them up, that they were sober, that I didn't tell him because I knew he'd overreact. That made him even more furious. He said I had no right to keep something like that from him, and that I'd been going behind his back as a partner and as a co-parent. He said I'd destroyed his trust completely. Looking back, I do understand why he's mad about the party. I probably should have told him eventually, just not in the heat of the moment, but with everything else. The dating, the sneaking in and out. I still don't think he should be this angry. Our daughter's 16, responsible and honest with me. I didn't want to break that trust just because he refuses to see her as someone growing up. His family has all weighed in now too. His mother is taking his side completely, saying I've enabled bad behavior and disrespected my husband's authority. His father actually agrees with me, saying I'm being realistic and that kids grow up whether you like it or not. The rest of his family, besides a couple of his aunts, who always side with him, are staying neutral because they don't want to get dragged into it. He's still furious and won't even look at me right now. I understand I lied, like a lot, but I don't regret protecting my daughter's right to grow up without fear. But should I be? Comments. Commenter 1. Why is your husband discussing your personal issues with his extended family? And why is his authority the issue, not yours? NTA for the question asked. Honesty is usually, if not always, best. And Meal can put a muzzle on her trap. Commenter 2, NTA. He is an unfair parent. Boys will be boys, but took daughter's door off for trust issues. He has patriarchal control issues. A girl is pregnant for 9 months. A boy can impregnate multiple girls in one night. Commenter 3. I am sorry if my husband had even threatened to take one of our teenage daughters' doors off completely. I would have been packing him a bag and telling him to leave. Show your husband this. I am in my 50s, married 30 years with 4 kids, and am now a grandma. I have lived life, and I experienced abuse in previous relationships. Your husband is a horrible, abusive misogynist. If he doesn't change, not only will his kids, especially his daughters, cut him out of their lives, he will not get to see his grandchildren either. Personally, you should have confronted him a long time ago. You should tell him straight out he is a bad parent and he should be treating his kids equally, and you had to go behind his back because he was so wrong. I would tell him to reflect on his awful behavior and decide if he wants to end up a sad, lonely old man. Commenter 4. Why are you still with this misogynist pig whom you legitimately can't trust to be a reasonable parent? Did he ever ask you before lashing out at your daughters like a 17th century country preacher? Your job is to protect your kids, and it sounds like he created a situation where the threat they need protecting from is their dad. AITA Stories number 14. Looks like the DA I'm going to trial with tomorrow used AI to write her Mills BC. So far every case citation is fake. I am so excited for court in the morning. Friday 9/19/25 commenter. I am brimming with excitement on your behalf. Hopefully you can turn this into some kind of win for your client. Reply, oh, we are at the last day of a statutory time limit, my friend. It's going to be incredible. Edit 2. I sent an email 5 minutes before court that simply said, regarding your filed motions, it appears none of your cited authority actually exists. The DA then just no-showed. Someone else had to make the appearance. The DA is now ordered present at 1 p.m. to explain herself. Let your colleague know we can always have her brought here if she can't get here on her own, was the quote of the day so far. But unfortunately my client attacked a guard at the jail and was not transported. So everything is a total shit show at the moment. Edit 3. It's so much worse than it originally seemed. Found out she straight up lied to the court about her communications with LEAs regarding the case. Edit 4. She can't be present at 1 p.m. because she is being sanctioned for misrepresentation in another matter. At that time I am losing my mind. How is this real? She's not a new attorney. Back at 2 p.m. Edit 5. Final update before Monday prob. I am in the trial court with 3 other trials, and the judge is absolutely livid. The judge ordered the client released from custody for reasons too complicated to get into, and the DA who filed the AI Mills tried to get the court to order me personally to transport him next week based the same case law I already told her was fake. She quoted the exact same language that didn't exist and said the courts have held but never cited anything. I asked for a citation and she said she didn't have one right now. The judge literally yelled, "Enough," and ordered everyone present Monday afternoon. She wants new briefing from me on, in her words, what the FK is even happening here. The DA is not permitted to amend her filed miles, but may file a supplement. I think we'd all like to hear you argue exactly what you cited in your motions, Miss Daw. The development that has kicked all this up a notch is that deputies are telling us there was no fight at the jail. No one can figure out where that came from. The DA told the sheriffs he wouldn't need to be transported today if he wasn't cooperative. When they woke him up for transport, he was groggy and slow. So they decided that meant he was refusing to go to court. There is at least one deputy who said he tried to tell both the DA and his boss that this was wrong and he needed to go to court. But they didn't listen. I wish I could give everyone a rundown of the exact legal issues, but I'm changing details to preserve some degree of anonymity for both myself and the client. Final update. Judgment. Dismissal of all charges in the interests of justice due to prosecutorial misconduct and referral to the state bar. The judge went through the motions in limine and each time made a finding that the DA had cited non-existent authorities and denied them, commenting about halfway through that it was starting to seem a little suspicious. The judge was also kind of grossed out by how nakedly one-sided several of the motions were, like one very bizarre request that the prosecution be allowed to make a motion for directed verdict before defense put on their case. I deliberately structured my motions so the big ones would be last. All of her evidence was excluded, along with her witnesses, for due process violations or a notice and confrontation. The judge delivered a zinger at this point so vicious it felt like a gun went off, but I can't think of a way to share it without doxing myself. Right before we get to my big mill about the lying and my suspicions regarding AI use, the DA asks for a recess because she needs to speak with her supervisor. She returns and says, "In light of your rulings this morning, and the prejudice they will cause to the state's case, we no longer feel there is a reasonable possibility of conviction." The judge interrupts. Agreed, the matter is dismissed in the interests of justice for substantive due process violations arising from the misrepresentations and misconduct of the prosecution. This is based on the declaration of defense counsel filed this morning, and the court's own observations as to the numerous illegal citations in the state's pleadings. Transcripts are ordered and counsel for the state is referred for an order to show cause before the state bar. I have been transparent about the fact I'm changing many details to preserve confidentiality. But here's the core of what transpired. An attorney for the state tried to deprive someone of their most basic civil rights by fabricating statements from jail staff regarding the behavior of that client and used fake AI-generated authorities in an absolutely fake AI-generated pleading. After reviewing my history of communication, wise this attorney, I discovered this had been an issue for quite some time. But you will all be pleased to hear that anything in quotes is pretty much verbatim. I love this judge so much, BC, she does not put up with bullshit. Needless to say, I am exhausted, but I've enjoyed having you all join me on this journey. Ultimately, though, I just feel kind of sick to my stomach that this happened in the first place. Stories number 15, AITA for losing my temper at Essil after she ruined the meal I made. My Essil Ashley is, for lack of a nicer word, obnoxious. She constantly does whatever she wants, even when you ask her not to. She thinks she's right above everyone else, even when she's dead wrong. And she's just got this very stereotypical baby sister attitude where she acts like she can do whatever she wants, and nobody is allowed to be mad at her because she's baby. Yes, that's something she regularly says. My husband says she's the youngest of their family, so her acting that way is normal. But I pointed out I'm the youngest of my family, and I've never acted that way. I don't like Sil, but I've been polite and kept a peaceful relationship for my husband's sake. Until today. Today was the first time since 2019 that my husband or I have been able to see our small friend group in person. We all got our shots 2 months ago and decided to meet up finally for dinner. I cooked while our friends either pitched in ingredients, made appetizers, or brought wine. I made pasta ravioli by hand, which was hard. I made enough for me, Hubs, and our friends. But after they arrived and we all caught up while I was finishing the food, Essil showed up. She let herself in and greeted everyone happily. They know her and said hi, but I subtly asked Hubs what she was doing here. Turns out he'd mentioned the gathering to her and he guessed she assumed she was invited. I told him to tell her to leave because she can't just invite herself like this. He said that would be humiliating for her and asked if she could stay. I was annoyed but agreed. Things were fine at the start. I had a few sips of wine to relax and was about to plate everyone's food at the kitchen island and bring it to them, but forgot Parmesan, so went to get it. I heard Sel say she'd help bring the food to the table. I said no thanks, and to stay seated. My back was to her and she said something I missed because of the loud clang of a pot hitting the floor. I heard everyone gasp and I closed my eyes. I knew what happened but didn't want to look. When I did, I just started crying. Hours of work splattered on the floor. Sil said it was okay, it was just some pasta. I'll buy more. I lost it. I called her a stupid bitch that ruined the entire dinner because she refuses to listen. She started boo-hooing and I told her to shut up and leave. She ran out crying and I sat down to cry too. Our friends consoled me and Hubs tried to say I went too far. But our friends told him he was an asshole and Sil was in the wrong. They helped clean and we ordered pizza. But after they left, Hubs and I were flooded with calls from his family saying I was a horrible spoiled brat who made their baby cry over some stupid food. Now I'm just crying and feeling like garbage. Did I go too far? I don't usually get so angry or curse, Aita. Comments, she's 31. He's closest in age to her and puts up with her stuff the least. Especially after we got together. I think sometimes his family just wears him down. I don't usually flip out like that. I'm very level-headed. But seeing my hours of hard work dumped on the floor just broke me. God. It took so much time. Hand-making ravioli is ugh. I didn't have the word limit to include it, but this is not the first time she's broken, damaged, etc. something. Because she refuses to listen to those around her. I don't know why she insists she has to touch everything. Some days I just want to scold her like my nieces and nephews. Look with your eyes, not your hands. Sigh. I don't understand why she was trying to take the whole pot to the table in the first place. I had plates set out to fill and serve to everyone at the island. All she had to do was stay seated for once. It was my first time making a pescatarian pasta dish because our friend Jenny doesn't eat any land meat. I was so proud how they came out. The first 10 or so were kinda wonky, but I eventually got the hang of it and was so excited to have everyone try them. I was already annoyed that I was going to have to take one ravioli from everyone so Sil could eat too. Because while I'd made about 3 extra just in case 1 or 2 fell apart or burned or whatever, it wasn't enough for a 7th person. But then she dropped the entire pot, and I swear if I hadn't started crying I'd have killed her. Unless she tuned out everyone around her the minute she sat at the table, then no. She knew the ravioli were homemade. It got brought up a couple times. Update: Hub said he understands I'm upset the food was wasted, but he doesn't think my outburst was warranted, and was actually kind of extreme. Tomorrow is his off day and I told him he's going to be making the dish like I did, by hand and on his own, and then at the end, we'll see if he thinks my outburst was unwarranted. Update 2. Well, Hubs made pasta for the first time today, and it went much like I'd anticipated. He was all confidence, and it'll be easy during the first 30 minutes. But towards the end of the first hour that disappeared as the burn in his arms really set in from making enough dough for almost 60 ravioli. I did not lift a finger to help him knead since I didn't get any help when I did it. After the dough was done and wrapped up in the fridge, he made the filling, which took another 40 or so minutes. Then the dough was brought out and he had to start crafting the ravioli. All by hand after rolling the dough out. Lord, that went on for ages. Just rolling some dough out, cutting out squares, filling them and putting the top on, rinse and repeat until the dough and filling was all gone. All in all, the entire process from start to finish for him on his own took a little over 4 hours. And that's with us not actually cooking any of the ravioli. Also, he didn't make any sauce or cook any shrimp for the ravioli to be served in with. Also, he didn't prepare any salad to go with it. And when I told him this, that there was still more to do, he almost started crying. He started saying sorry at the 1 hour mark and hasn't stopped apologizing since. We had a long talk about his sister and the dinner she ruined. The other times she's pulled similar incidents, there's a lot. And how him and his family always let her get away with it. He says he knows how they treat her isn't normal, and he doesn't like it but was raised to just go with the flow regarding Ashley. But he said he's going to call her and tell her we need some space from her for now. Update 3. Hubs just got a message from his cousin of Ashley laughing and bragging about intentionally spilling the pasta to teach me a lesson for being such a snobby bitch. A handful of you all thought she did it on purpose, but I didn't actually think she did until hearing her admit to it. I have never seen my husband this pissed off before. IDK, what's going to happen now? Update 4. Hi everyone. So much has happened since the pasta fiasco that I'd honestly completely forgotten about this account until this morning. When I logged on, I saw that I had a bunch of requests for an update, so here I am. I was going to post this in an edit on my original post, but it ended up being way too long. Someone said I should post it in the comments, but they're locked, so I decided to just make my own post and put a link to it in the original AITA post, since I'm not sure how to do an official update post on the Am I the A-hole sub, sorry. So for the update, like I said, a lot happened since then. I'll try to remember all of it, but be warned I'm just going to put down everything as I remember it, and try make it in order. But it's been like 4 months, so I may not do it perfectly. Here goes. So CL bragged to her and Hub's cousin Brenda that she ruined the dinner on purpose. Hubs went to confront his family. SIL denied everything till Hubs played the recording. Hubs banned SEL from our house until she apologized to me sincerely and reimbursed us for all of the wasted food. SIL went ballistic, sobbing and throwing a massive tantrum until MIL tried calming her down and scolding Hubs for choosing some floozy over your blood family. Hubs apparently flipped and called out his family on their weird babying of SIL, saying they'd made her into a spoiled monster. This just started a huge screaming match between all of them before Hubs said he wasn't speaking to them for the foreseeable future before storming out. That's when he called me and told me to block all of his family. And before I could hang up, I started getting tons of calls, texts from all of them, just saying the most hateful stuff to me. All of my socials from my personal Insta to my work email were bombarded with hate, until I managed to block all of them. But it took weeks for them to all stop. The only people in Hub's family who weren't harassing us were his paternal grandparents, his maternal grandmother, a few of his cousins on both sides, and his paternal aunts, uncles. Actually, I think all of the hate was from his maternal side, though not all of them. After blocking them all, things were peaceful, until a few weeks later our friend's Kelly car was vandalized really bad. When she stayed at our house for the weekend, I'm talking the sides were keyed. All the tires were slashed, the windows were spray painted, and they even tore off the tag and shoved it down into the driver's side door where the window slides down. We checked the doorbell cam and it was SEL and Bill. Seems they mistook Kelly's car for mine. I lent my car to my mom since hers needed new tires, and I could use Hubs if needed since both Kelly and my car are black. Needless to say, we called the cops and Kelly pressed charges on both of them. Thankfully, with the video evidence, she said she was able to make a no-fault claim against Ashley, who had insurance, and Kelly got her repairs paid for, though barely. SIL and BIL getting arrested caused a huge rift in Hubs' family between those who don't think it was necessary that they be arrested. Most think they should have just paid for repairs out of pocket, and those who think they got what was coming to them. Also, the arrest cost BIL his job at a university. Hub's cousin Brenda, who is keeping us in the loop, told us that anyways, we didn't look into it. Brenda also informed us that during the whole family drama thing it was revealed that Ashley is only their half-sister, according to the maternal grandmother anyways. Seems she verbally tore Mill to pieces after Mill insinuated Sil hadn't done anything to deserve this treatment. Brenda said their grandmother said, "You felt bad that your husband didn't love her because he knew she was just your shameful affair baby. So you loved her more than your other kids in some twisted effort to make up for it. And you pulled your other kids into doing it too, and all you did was succeed in spoiling her rotten." Brenda told us more, but that part is what really stuck in my mind. Honestly, hearing all of that was unbelievable for me. I had no idea this level of drama was buried in my husband's family. Then again, neither did he. And all of this snowballed from a ruined ravioli dinner. Stories number 16. My deceased best friend's son reached out and I ignored him. I 34M lost my best friend 14 years ago. We were both 20 at the time, and he had recently found out his GF was pregnant. I don't really want to get super deep into how he passed, but it was really traumatic for me. Without going too deep, he literally passed in my arms. He and I had been best friends since we were 7. He was the kindest guy I had ever met, and to this day have ever met. I had a deep love platonic for him, and losing him in the way I did really screwed me up. I went into a deep spiral and almost lost myself, to be honest. It was only when I moved away to a different state that I was able to begin to heal from it all. As mentioned, his GF was pregnant at the time. I really did want to be there for her, but I was not in the right mind or place to be, sadly. Unfortunately, when the son was born, she also spiraled and didn't have any support systems at all to cope with any of it, and took her own life when he was around 2. I won't lie, after I had heard she did that, I thought about doing the same and spiraled again. In terms of the son, I did try to keep tabs on what was happening to him after I was in a better place. His grandparents, my best friend's parents, had disabilities and were financially unable to take him in, and the GF's parents and family were not in the picture. So sadly, he ended up in foster care. That's all I had known about him up until a few weeks ago. Whilst I definitely have thought about him a lot, I really have put that part of my life behind me. I haven't gone back to the town since leaving. My parents were not in my life before I left, and I had no other family, so I never felt the need to return. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, I got an email from my best friend's son, now 14. He apparently found me on LinkedIn. I was genuinely shocked. The email was quite long, but to summarize the key parts, he was given a box that my best friend's parents, his grandparents, had after his grandmother passed away. In the box, there were pictures of me and my best friend from when we were young, to our early teens and eventually before he passed. There was also a note he had written to his son seemingly around the time he found out his GF was pregnant, which went through how excited he was to have a son, be the dad he never had, etc. He also mentioned how he knows that he'll always have his best friend me by his side. The son wants to meet me to know more about his dad, the kind of person he was, stories of us growing up, etc. From his writings, he's had a super tough upbringing and has been in a lot of foster homes, some not so pleasant, and also seemingly wants to have a connection with someone who knew his mom and dad. He left his contact details, his mobile phone, where he lives, and other details. I'm ashamed to say that I still have not responded. I'm in a really good place in my life right now. I've got a wife and 2 girls of my own. It took me a long time to move past what happened. I looked at the Instagram address he gave me, and this boy is the spitting image of my late friend. Has the exact facial features. Blonde hair, blue eyes, literally everything. I'm so scared that if I respond and connect with him, maybe go see him, that it'll take me back to the mental place I was in the months after the death. I feel I have no one to talk about this. My wife does not know about my best friend, let alone what happened or that he has a son. I've kept it to myself. Part of me wants to drive to my old hometown and just go see him tomorrow. Maybe even take him in if he'd let me. The other part wants to just not respond and pretend he doesn't exist and never look back on my past again. Comments. Commenter 1. Talk to him. You're all he has connecting him to his roots, and he needs someone to talk to about his dad. You don't have to take him in, and I hope he's in good hands now. But be there for him if you can. I'm sure it would mean the world to him. Commenter 2. Dude, what would your best friend think if you turned your back on his son? Talk to your wife and a therapist, get support, but reach out to the kid. You're the only connection he has. Commenter 3. Painful as it might be, I really think you could heal some of your trauma by meeting this kid. You might be the closest thing he ever gets to meeting his father. If you don't go in order to preserve your peace, that's also valid, but do it for the right reasons. Commenter 4. This is your best friend's child. You are the only one he has to connect with his father. I do think you should see him. You are in a better mental state, and it could be good for you. You don't have to move him in, But I would definitely start a friendship, discuss it with your wife, and see what she thinks. This all might be healing as well. I wish you good luck. Stories number 17. My 28F partner 38M got upset that I don't want to remove my leg hair at the moment. I'm a 28F and my partner is a 38M. We've been together for 3.5 years, and it's been a really hard year for us overall. When we first met, he knew that I didn't remove my leg hair. I was actually proud of it, and it was part of how I expressed myself. It's mostly blonde, nothing crazy, and he even had a cute nickname for me because of it. About 5 months into the relationship, I started waxing my legs as a personal choice, because I knew he preferred smooth legs. Not because I suddenly disliked my natural hair. This year has been awful. I've had a lot of traumatic things happen, including death in my family, and honestly, hair removal just hasn't been a priority. Waxing is painful, and I'm tired of putting myself through it just to meet someone else's preference. Tonight I cooked us dinner. I made a vegan pasta bake for myself, a separate one with cheese for him, and even cooked him a steak. Even though I'm vegan, I'm understanding that he has different eating preferences and support that. Earlier in the day, I spent hours cleaning and organizing the kitchen, because the day before we had a fight about how I'm naturally just a bit more of a messy person. Like I miss things when I sweep or forget glasses around the house. Nothing serious, but he told me to do better when I said I was doing my best. I will note that he does clean a lot himself. He's the more tidy person in our relationship. Anyway, while we were eating, he ripped off a Band-Aid on his leg and said, "Ouch," because it pulled some hair out and showed me. I kind of laughed and said, "Imagine waxing your whole legs regularly. That's painful." He mentioned he wanted to bring up that I hadn't waxed recently and asked when I was planning to. He said maybe I should go tomorrow before we leave for a trip this weekend. I said no, because I'm just not feeling up to it and want to keep my leg hair for now. He looked visibly annoyed and said he finds smooth legs really important. That leg hair is unattractive to him, and that it could affect our sex life. I said that when we first started dating, I hadn't shaved or waxed for about 4 years, and we had some of the best sex of our relationship. He said that wasn't comparable and that this could negatively affect our sex life. Then he asked, "Well, how come you shave your armpits in privates?" I said, "Because that's what I like to do. I think every woman should be able to choose what makes her feel comfortable." I told him the way he was talking made it sound like he owned my body, and he said I was saying some feminist bullshit. Things went quiet after that. Later, he compared me keeping my leg hair to him not showering after smoking. He said he showers out of respect for me because he knows I hate the smell, so I should remove my leg hair out of respect for him. I told him that's not the same. The smell of smoke makes me anxious because of childhood trauma, whereas my leg hair only affects me. He said it felt like the same level of disrespect, and maybe he should just stop showering after smoking. After that, I left the room to calm down. Later I went back and asked if he wanted to talk or take some space. He said he wanted space and couldn't say how long. When I tried to suggest a time for the next day, he said maybe a few days and that it's been a lot with I fight the day before. And I've been sick the last week, so he needs time for himself. I said okay, but that it would be his responsibility to reinitiate the conversation since I've already tried. This has been an issue before, and we've had therapy around it. I was doing what the therapist told us, to make a time to reconnect. Otherwise the distance can become worse than the fight itself. He's avoidant and I'm not, so I don't want to keep chasing him to speak. He agreed, but barely looked at me, staring at his laptop the whole time. We had a nice night planned after dinner to watch our favorite show, but that didn't happen. I don't think I overreacted. I was calm and respectful. Didn't raise my voice, but it feels like things blew up over something really small. I've been sick with a flu, and I'm only just getting back on my feet. So he was sleeping in the spare room because I didn't want him to get sick. He came into the room this morning and just said, "I'm just grabbing some clothes," before closing the door and leaving. Update. This is my first time ever posting on Reddit. I've just felt really lost and wanted to get others' perspectives because honestly, I really do try to see everyone's perspectives, including my partner's, but you have all made it really clear how he's acting is not okay. And yes, this is a pattern in our dynamic that I really need to think long and hard about because it's really damaging my already fragile mental health. For more perspective, I have no parents. Dad left when I was a baby, and I cut off contact from my meth-addicted mother. All I really had was my grandma, and she passed away a few months ago. And it's been really hard on me since, because she was always the person I could always call. I live overseas, a lot of my friendship circle are away, and he's honestly the closest thing I have to family, so Leaving is a really hard decision and means I would have to look for somewhere to live, and it's just a lot for me to handle on my own. But I know this behavior isn't okay. It's just so hard because he can be this wonderful, great person I fell in love with. But times then he does stuff like this and I'm like, who are you? Comments, commenter 1. I think you need to think long and hard about this relationship long term. Don't stick with it necessarily because you've got 3.5 years in. Commenter 2. I realize this is a 3.5-year relationship, but why would you even want to sit next to someone who'd say, that's some feminist bullshit for 10 mins on a train? Let alone be friends or romantic partners with a person so comfortable with ignorance and hatred? Commenter 3. Imagine one of your girlfriends came to you and told you all this was happening with her partner. What would your advice to her be? Commenter 4. About 5 months into the relationship, I started waxing my legs as a personal choice because I knew he preferred smooth legs. Not because I suddenly disliked my natural hair. This part is key. He never liked you having leg hair. He just put up with it for the first few months because he was confident he'd be able to convince you to start shaving eventually. And he was right. As such, your recent decision to stop shaving for the time being is seen as a regression, a loss of control. He had you right where he wanted you on the matter, and now, suddenly, he doesn't. The thing he thought he didn't have to put up with anymore is now something he has to go back to putting up with, and he doesn't like it one bit. Accordingly, he's doing the cold shoulder bit to try and mold you back into acquiescence. Stories number 18. Bride uninvited half the guest list 2 weeks before the wedding because her psychic said the energy was too crowded. I'm still processing this. Wedding was supposed to be this Saturday in Asheville. Was supposed to be. My cousin Vanessa has always been into spiritual stuff. Crystals, tarot, astrology, whatever, fine. Not my thing, but you do you. But about 6 months ago she started seeing this spiritual advisor, who she treats like a therapist, life coach, oracle all rolled into one. The wedding planning has been pretty normal up until last week. 200 people invited, venue booked, catering confirmed. I'm a bridesmaid, so I've been somewhat involved in the planning. Last Tuesday, Vanessa sends a group text to the bridesmaids saying we need to have an emergency call. We get on Zoom, and she tells us she had a session with her psychic, and the psychic told her that having over 80 people at the wedding would disrupt the spiritual alignment of the union and create energetic blocks in the marriage. She said she and her fiancé Matt decided to cut the guest list down to 75 people. 2 weeks before the wedding, we all kind of sat there in silence. Finally, one of the other bridesmaids asked how they were deciding who to uninvite, and Vanessa said the psychic helped her create an energy compatibility chart for all the guests. Anyone who wasn't in alignment with their vibrational frequency got cut. This included Matt's entire extended family except his parents, most of Vanessa's co-workers, and about half of our family including my parents. My parents, who already bought plane tickets and booked a hotel. She sent out a mass email that night, not even individual messages, just a group email that said something like, after deep spiritual consultation, we've decided to honor our authentic truth by creating a more intimate ceremony. If you have received this email, it means your energy is not aligned with our sacred union at this time. Please respect our journey. People are losing their minds. Matt's mom called my mom crying. Multiple people are demanding their gifts back. Matt's brother posted something on Facebook about it, and Vanessa's response was to post a quote about releasing toxic energy. Here's the kicker. I didn't get uninvited. I'm still a bridesmaid, but my parents aren't invited anymore. I asked Vanessa how that makes sense, and she said, your energy is evolved beyond your parents' energy. It's not personal. I told her I'm not coming if my parents aren't invited, and she said that's my choice, but I'm choosing fear over love. Then she asked if I'm still doing my bridesmaid duties this week because they need help setting up. The wedding is in 4 days. Last I heard, about 30 people have confirmed they're still coming. The venue won't refund them because it's too late. Matt seems completely checked out. His family is furious. And Vanessa keeps posting Instagram stories about honoring your truth even when others don't understand. I don't even know if this wedding is still happening at this point. Comments, commenter 1, don't go to that wedding, don't help. She's crazy, tell her that she is bad energy for you. Commenter 2, so she thinks you'll still want to show up and provide free labor when you have said you won't come to the wedding? That's a new level of entitlement there. Commenter 3, just tell her. Sorry, can't make it. Mercury is in retrograde. Saturn is in the 9th house. I need to clear my chakras and drive out the evil eye. Good luck with your wedding. Commenter 4. Hopefully the groom takes this as a sign to get out while he still can. Uninviting your future family members is delusional. Stories number 19. My boyfriend told me I was prettier before. So I met my boyfriend when I was blonde. No, I'm not naturally blonde, but I bleached it and had it for over a year. I had to cut what once was long brunette hair because it became too damaged after I started bleaching it. My blonde hair was too much to handle as I started experiencing hair loss, and I had to go back to my natural color in order to let it heal. That's when I decided to never dye my hair again. However, I was met with comments such as, "Bleach it again? It looked better before." And I've never felt worse about myself. The one that really got to me was, "Can I tell you something honestly? You looked better before. Everyone liked you more when you were blonde. Get over it and bleach it again." The person who said it was my boyfriend. I was stunned, and I didn't know what to say or DP. I was really insecure about my looks just a few years ago. And this had me thinking, does hair color really determine how pretty I am? What should I do? I don't want to be with someone who makes me feel like I have to do something in order to please him or others. I don't want to be with someone who makes me feel insecure. Update. He said that he was just joking. Still seems like a red flag to me. Edit. I just want to clarify. I see nothing wrong with preferences. Obviously, everyone has preferences and it's a normal thing. What bothers me is the way he said it, even though it could have been prevented with a simple, "I think it looked better blonde, but you're pretty nonetheless." But instead, what I got was, and I quote, straight from his message, "Can I tell you something honestly?" As a response to an old pic of me where I had blonde hair. "You looked better before. Everyone I know liked you more when you were blonde. Get over it, bleach it, and go back to blonde, please." I don't think it's an opinion or preference. It would have been if he said it nicely, and I would have no issues with it. Edit 2. I dyed my hair brown a month before we started dating. It's not like I dyed my hair during our relationship. We were friends for over a year before that. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. He said that he was just joking. He wasn't joking. He can have preferences about your hair color. He can tell you his preference. But everyone liked you more when you were blonde. Get over it and bleach it again. Is your huge warning sign about who he really is. I get that you have some really low self-esteem, and that causes you to think you can't do better than him. But you can, I promise. Commenter 2. Just joking is the coward's excuse. He pushed until he saw you were offended, then took a tiny step back. Don't have sex with this guy. He makes you feel insecure and insults your appearance. Ditch update. So before I proceed, I want to talk more about my reasoning behind my actions and why I decided to do it. For a while now, I felt like I had to be the best version of myself in front of my boyfriend. I kept telling it was for myself and that I was the one who wanted to look nice. My skin is breaking out? Better cover that up so he doesn't see. Even though I've always avoided wearing makeup during breakouts and never really cared if other people saw it. His comment about my hair bothered me because he disregarded my health and well-being just because he likes it. Again, obviously there's nothing wrong with preferences. I also have preferences and it's completely normal. He has voiced his preferences for blondes before, and how he liked my blonde hair. But he never went as far as to be this aggressive about it, especially since he knew how much it damaged both me and my hair. That's the thing, I don't want to be with someone who makes me feel insecure. I don't want to sacrifice my health for someone else's preferences, when I myself prefer brunette hair. Also, his joke made me think, if I had agreed and said, yes, I will bleach my hair again, would he say he was just joking? No, he wouldn't. I'm not going to go much into the details. I talked to him about it and explained why it bothered me. Talked about my experience with blonde hair and how I was experiencing hair loss. He got defensive and started saying how he was only joking, and how I'm making a big deal out of it because, and I quote, "You want attention? Yeah. I'd rather be a brunette than bald. And I'd rather have healthy hair than a boyfriend. Overall, I want a healthy relationship where I don't feel like I need to live up to someone's expectations in order to please their preferences and have them stay with me. And sadly, this wasn't that relationship. I broke it off after arguing with him and got called an insecure bitch who only wants compliments and cares only about how she looks. Stories. Number 20. AITA for continuing to walk my dog in a neighborhood I don't live in, even though I was asked not to by one of the residents. A few years back, I was walking my dog in a nearby neighborhood, and a dog that lived in that neighborhood who was off-leash came running up to my dog, and my dog nipped him. I apologized to the owner, and she shrugged it off and didn't seem upset. My dog then passed away, and I got another similar-looking dog. When I walked that dog through the neighborhood, the woman was angry and told me not to bring my dog into her neighborhood ever again since her dog was traumatized and changed by the encounter with my previous dog. I told her this is a new dog that I've got, so her dog shouldn't be traumatized by him. She told me to walk my dog in my own neighborhood and stay out of her neighborhood. For the most part, I will walk my dog in my own neighborhood, but I will sometimes, maybe once a month, walk through her neighborhood. When she saw me walking by, she came out of the house screaming at me and said I was an asshole for continuing to walk through her neighborhood even after she told me I can't. I flipped her the bird and told her she doesn't own the streets, and I will walk whatever street I want. I suppose it is kind of passive-aggressive of me to continue to walk in her neighborhood since I have many options regarding where I can walk my dog. But I feel she is wrong to tell me I can't walk on the street in front of her house. Am I being an asshole? What would you do? Comments. Commenter 1. Her dog was loose. Her dog's trauma is her fault and her problem. Walk your pooch where you like. Commenter 2. I would be walking my dog past her house at least twice a day for the rest of eternity. I might even start a dog walking service. Commenter 3. I would exclusively walk my dog in her neighborhood. Heck, I might organize a group of friends for communal dog walks. Commenter 4. Are you driving to get to this neighborhood or is just a different walking route than you normally take? If it's in walking distance and just along a different path, I'd say it is still your neighborhood. Just not your street block in the neighborhood and she can kick rocks. AITA Stories number 21. AITA for removing my fiancé's friends from the wedding party after they confronted me about my family's gifts. My fiancé 32F and I 33M have been together for 4 years. We met through common friends, and after a while of casually hanging out we began dating and now are engaged. She has a core friend group of 4 people including her. 2 guys, one of whom is her cousin, and a girl, and they have been very close since childhood. When I had first met the other 3, before we had begun dating, they seemed like nice people, fun to hang out with. But when I was reintroduced to them as her BF, things were different. I knew they were judging me, which is fine. I knew there would be a friends test I would have to go through. But now 4 years later, it still feels like I am being tested. So for some background, my GF is sweet, caring, empathetic, and sensitive. She has been hurt in past relationships. We have spoken about it briefly. She gets upset when we talk about it, so I have never pushed her much. But from what I know, while she was never physically abused, they were still toxic relationships. May have involved emotional abuse, considering that I get her friends being protective early when we were dating and gradually became serious. Her friends always found ways to, I don't know how to explain this, show me my place in her life if that makes sense. They would whisk her away if we were together, barge into our dates. She shares everything with them so they knew where we were going on dates. The only way I could get her to myself is if I planned a surprise getaway, but how many of those can you do? When I reached my saturation point, we talked. She has a blind side with them and never noticed what they were doing. After I pointed it out and she saw it happen the next time they did it, she called them out, threatened to stop talking to them. After a bit of bickering, they relented and apologized. To her, not me, anyway. Things got much better after that. Cut to recently. I know she is the one for me. I love her immensely. In my culture, we don't have the whole proposing with a ring, but I knew she has always wanted that. I picked out a ring that belongs to my grandmother. It is part of a jewelry set. In our tradition, when we get married, the new bride is welcomed to the family with the elders presenting her with heirloom jewelry. I know my grandmother will be giving her the remaining jewelry set as a wedding present. My parents and other elders in the family will also be gifting similar things. The thing is, these sets, they are traditional. I guess what I am trying to say is that they may be too gaudy by modern standards. My girlfriend loved the ring, even though it isn't like the more conventional engagement rings. I know all these sets she will eventually get she won't wear. Probably ever. She likes to keep her style simple. But I just thought that gold is an asset even if she doesn't wear them. They're hers for any other use in life. My girlfriend knows all of this. She never said anything about it. Cut to a week back. The trio came over when my girlfriend wasn't home. They said that I was being selfish. That under the garb of tradition, I was forcing my girlfriend to accept gifts she doesn't want, mind you. We do have a bridal registry set up, and I know for a fact many family members, friends and colleagues have already selected items from there. I told them that what my family gifts to my girlfriend isn't their business. They said that I was no different from her past partners. I was also being emotionally abusive and gaslighting her. My girlfriend had previously asked me to make her 2 guy friends my groomsmen. My brother is my best man, and I had agreed to make her happy. But after what they said, I told them then that they were no longer my groomsmen. When my girlfriend got back, I told her what happened. while she agrees that her friends had no right to comment on the gifts my family give her. And she clarified that she does not share their opinion. She does feel I went too far and overreacted by removing her friends from the wedding party. She had always wanted all 3 friends to be a part of her wedding, and my rejection now means that won't happen. Aita. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. NTA. I wonder if the past relationships of your girlfriend were truly abusive or if her friends gaslighted her in believing they were. Reply. This is difficult for me to find out. Like I said, she doesn't like talking about it. And the only other way I could find out is if I snooped around behind her back, and I just don't want to do that to her. Commenter 2. I'm so sorry this happened. Being a groomsman is an honor, not a rite of passage because they are friends of the bride. They have disrespected you and do not deserve the privilege of standing next to you during the ceremony. NTA. Choose people that support and love you. Reply. Thank you for the support. I am determined on not taking them back as my groomsmen, and have already reached out to my cousin and a close friend to fill in. They have happily accepted UP on the discussions of gifts with his fiancée. Reply. We have talked about the gifts. When I said elders, it will only be my grandmother, my parents, my uncle mother's brother and aunt father's sister who will be gifting her the heirlooms. Most others will be gifting from the registry. I had told her that if she doesn't want the jewelry, then all the above people will pick something from the registry. The jewelry will simply be kept aside for my sister. She said that while the jewelry isn't something she would usually pick for herself, she still thinks they are beautiful pieces. I am Indian, and sometimes when she attends my family events, she does wear sari, looks gorgeous, and she carries it so well. She says when she attends such events post-marriage she could always wear the jewelry then since it wouldn't look out of place. I believe her when she says she loves the engagement ring and that she's okay with getting the heirloom jewelry as wedding presents. She said she had talked to her friends about the gifts and shown them pictures of the sets she was going to get. She never said she didn't want them. They assumed based on the fact that they aren't things she usually likes. Commenter 3. Your girlfriend does not want to choose between you and her 3 friends. The 3 friends do not want to lose the girlfriend to you. You need to stand your ground. Unless your GF clarifies her relationship with the 3 friends, a marriage would be doomed. Reply. I know if I pushed her to choose she would probably pick me. I say probably only because nothing is 100% sure in life, but I also know it would break her heart to do so. I worry that if that happens she may resent me in later life for being the reason her childhood friendships broke. Commenter 4. When you 2 get married, the friends should quietly show up less. You say your culture a lot. If you're a different race, then believe racism is what's happening here. Seems the friends are picking on you. Maybe her other relationships weren't toxic. Maybe the other boyfriends just told the friends off and put them in their place. Besides picking friends, any other flaws your fiancé might have? Reply. I am a different race. I am Indian. I'm not sure if race is the issue. While my fiancé, her cousin and the non-cousin guy friend are white. The girl in the group is biracial. And in our larger circle of friends, there are people from many different races. That doesn't tend to be a problem. Her 3 stooges have always given me the cold shoulder, but I've never really gotten racist vibes from them. While I don't get along with her core trio, I'm on good terms with her family. Her parents and younger siblings have been very warm and welcoming. Even her work friends and colleagues are nice. I am sure my fiancé, like everyone else, has flaws, but not sure how fixating on that will help. Update. AITA for removing my fiancé's friends from the wedding party after they confronted me about my family's gifts. First up, thank you to all the people who shared their support, and for the comments that eventually led to a lot things getting cleared up. I knew asking for advice on Reddit is a double-edged sword. While many of the comments were helpful and encouraged to me seek some much-needed answers, others were more divisive, but I knew what I was signing up for when I posted here. So I accept that as a part and parcel of the Reddit experience. These past few days have been nothing short of a chaotic roller coaster. So much has happened in such short time. But before I get into everything, I want to make one thing very clear. My GF and I love each other deeply. She is a genuinely good person. I know that my original post may have unintentionally portrayed her in a negative light. The truth is, while she has been incredibly naive when it comes to her stooges, and has often been easily manipulated by them, she has always stood up for me when it truly mattered. Her heart has always been in the right place. She did say that I overreacted when I kicked out the guys from the wedding party, and she was disappointed that all her 3 friends wouldn't be a part of the wedding. But that wasn't her only reaction. She also agreed that her friends had no right to come into our home and insult me. They had no right to make statements on her behalf about the jewelry. especially since they were false statements. After I changed the groomsman to my cousin and friend, she supported the decision and did not insist that I take her friends back. After the incident, she hadn't immediately reached out to the trio to talk to them about what they did. She is not a confrontational person. She is not someone who can counter-argue on the spot. So usually when she knows there is going to be, let's say, explosive conversation, she usually likes to write down points of what she wants to say. What she would say if XYZ what brought up this point. How would she respond if they said this to defend their action? Like that, she likes being prepared, I guess is what I am trying to say. Especially with the trio, because when such situations arise, she's usually defending me in our relationship. And it's always 3 against 1. I have tried in the past to help her, but I dislike understatement these guys enough that if I get involved in their conversations, it just always turns into a verbal spat and that just makes her more stressed. Yes, she has missed several glaring red flags when it comes to her friends. But missing red flags does not automatically make someone a bad person. From her point of view, these people were the backbone of her social life. They have been in her life since childhood, and she has always seen them as supportive, protective, and caring. When you are that close to someone for that long, it can be extremely difficult to recognize toxicity from the outside looking in. It might seem like she was being intentionally blind or refusing to accept reality. But when you're the one trapped inside that bubble, it is a lot harder to see things clearly. I had explained this in a comment on my previous post, but because people kept repeating the same questions, I thought it best to include it here again. We have had open conversations about the gifts before. She also told me that she had shown her friends pictures of the jewelry and talked to them about the gifts. She never once said she didn't want them or didn't like them. They simply assumed she wouldn't like them because they were not her usual style. But as it turned out, even that assumption was not innocent. We later found out that it was just another manipulation on their part. Continued in comments 1, to those telling me to leave her and run. That is not going to happen. We are not breaking up, but the wedding has been postponed. And here is why. A few of you pointed out something I had missed. That the non-cousin guy friend, let's call him Ray, may have feelings for my girlfriend. To be honest, I always saw the trio as a package deal and never really paid attention to their individual behaviors. But after reading so many of your comments, it stuck in my head. So I asked her directly if there had ever been anything romantic between them. At first, she laughed it off. But when she saw I was being serious, she told me that yes, years ago, right after she had broken up with her high school BF and was about to leave for college, Ray had asked her out. All 4 of them ended up going to different colleges. She had no romantic feelings for him and said no. She saw him more like a brother. He was upset about it at the time and did not speak to her for a few months, but eventually came around. Since then, he never brought it up again, and she assumed it was just a passing crush and he had moved on. We talked in detail about her past relationships. She has dated 3 guys before me, not counting her high school BF. None of those relationships were long-term. The longest one lasted around 7 months and took place while she was working abroad on a project. That relationship ended amicably when she returned home. The trio never met him. The other 2 relationships lasted barely 2 months, perhaps even less. She told me that in both cases, she genuinely believed things were looking promising. And then suddenly, they just stopped replying to her texts and calls. They ghosted her completely. She said it made her feel unwanted and undesirable. And the trio was always there to help her get over the heartbreaks. She told me that after the breakup with her high school BF and the guy from abroad, she still felt confident in herself. But after getting ghosted twice in a row, she lost a lot of her self-esteem. She said that her reluctance to talk about her past relationship were because she thought that if she told me what happened, I would see the same flaws, problems in her that they did and ghost her too. That explains so much about how she behaved early in our relationship. When we first started dating, she was very meek. That is probably the best word for it. She has always been soft-spoken, but back then it felt like she was afraid to be too much or too little. It took her time to feel safe and relaxed, but when she did, she was a completely different person. Warm, funny, and so much more herself. Interestingly, she did not introduce me to the trio as her BF. I had met all 4 before through mutual friends until we had been dating for a while. I had met her parents before I was formally reintroduced to them as her BF. She told me she wanted to be really sure about me before bringing me into their circle. She was afraid that if things did not work out, she would end up relying on them again to help her through another heartbreak. She admitted she never tried to find out why the guys ghosted her, because she was afraid they might say something cruel and humiliating that would end up damaging her self-confidence even more. But one of those exes turned out to be an acquaintance of a friend from my workplace. I know I said I didn't want to snoop, but after everything I had read and the doubts growing in my head, I needed answers. I reached out to him and asked if he would be willing to meet. He agreed, right at the start. I told him I held no ill will toward him. I just wanted to understand. What he told me was beyond anything I expected. Comments 2. He said that he had genuinely liked my girlfriend and saw potential for something long-term, but he decided to pull away because he had been told she had schizophrenia, and he felt that he wasn't prepared to take on the responsibility of being in a relationship with a lunatic, his words. I was stunned. My GF does not have schizophrenia. I have been with her for 4 years and lived with her for nearly 2. If she had such a condition, I would know. He said it was her friends, the Stooges, who told him that. He even praised them, saying they were good people for warning him about her condition before things got serious. They were the ones who advised him to discreetly stop contacting her and not make a scene by breaking up with her. They told him that because of her condition, if he tried to break up with her in person, she may end up doing something crazy, hurt him, or even off herself. He said he was disappointed that she had tried to hide such a serious condition from him. He warned me to stay away from her. I asked if during the time they were together, did he notice anything about her that would confirm that she was suffering from schizophrenia? He said that while she never showed any obvious symptoms, he believed that she was ill, because why would her friends, ones who were so close to her, lie? I just sat there seething hearing such BS. I am glad I had the foresight to record the entire conversation. I played the recording for my girlfriend. I knew it would devastate her, but she had to know, and she was heartbroken. She cried a lot. She refused to eat. It was unbearable to watch, but I think it was necessary. She eventually picked herself back up, and together we decided to confront her friends. She invited them over, saying there were some changes to the wedding plan she wanted to discuss. I am pretty sure they showed up thinking she was going to call off the engagement or say something equally dramatic after the stunt they had pulled with me, since she hadn't reached out to them after the incident. For all I know, they probably thought their stunt had worked. Instead, she told them exactly what the ex had said and asked why they had lied to him. They denied it and immediately tried to blame me, saying I was trying to isolate her and ruin her lifelong friendships. That is when she played the recording. Even after hearing it, they still tried to deny it. But she was done playing games. They finally cracked and said that they had always thought she and Ray would make a great couple. They justified their actions by saying that since they had all been friends for so long, my girlfriend was too close to the situation to see how well suited she and Ray were. They admitted that she had never once said anything bad about the heirloom jewelry, but they believed that if they could create a conflict around it, I would take it personally, because the jewelry was tied to my family and culture, and that would make it a sensitive enough issue to create tension between us, which they could further exploit to draw a wedge. Most of this was revealed by her cousin, of the 3. He seemed at least a bit repentant of what they had done, had been doing for so long. We were both stunned by the sheer level of calculated manipulation. These people genuinely thought they were being good friends. My girlfriend F ended the friendship on the spot. She told them to leave immediately and never contact her again. They tried to talk her out of it. She threatened to call the police if they did not leave, and only then did they finally go. And that brings me to the last part. Yes, the wedding is postponed. These were her childhood friends. Their families were also close because of the long history. Plus one of them is her cousin, so literally her family. The fallout has caused a major shockwave. Her parents were furious when they found out what had happened and have been fully supportive of her decision to cut them off. They have stood by us. Comments 3. The news of the 3 getting booted out of the wedding and our lives immediately spread to our circle of friends. Mostly cause the Stooges wanted to spread their lies to gain sympathy. They were reiterating their BS about me being abusive and how I'm trying to isolate her by removing them from her life. But a lot of our friends were aware of the shit attitude they had towards me for the longest time and didn't believe them outright. They reached out to us and we shared our side. Now most of our friends are backing our decision to go NC with them, barring a few who have taken a more neutral stance, and even fewer who believe that they were being idiots but deserve a second chance since they've been friends for so long. Her younger brother, who is dating the girl's cousin, also thinks she overreacted. He believes going NC with such old friends was too harsh, especially since their sabotage failed and we are still together. So they deserve a second chance. He is just 21 and an idiot. Neither of us cares about his opinion or the opinion of anyone who says we're being too harsh by going NC. The trio's parents, especially Ray's, have also been creating noise. Turns out, Ray's parents may have known about what the Stooges were doing. They were apparently very enthusiastic about the idea of my girlfriend becoming their future daughter-in-law. That is not happening. We have been bombarded with messages over the last 12 hours from friends and family, and, of course, the Stooges. Most have been supportive, some judgmental. The trio has been messaging my girlfriend constantly. The last we checked, there were nearly 80 messages from them. She hasn't read any, says she wants nothing to do with them ever again. If this behavior continues, we will looking into getting a restraining order. Not sure yet if we have the grounds for it, but we'll see what can be done. I think the worst of it is behind us. But the situation is still messy. My girlfriend wants to start individual therapy, and we have both agreed to begin couples counseling. We love each other. We want to do the work. We just need things to settle down a bit more before we move forward with the wedding. I think the best part in all of this is that now, not only will they not be the groomsmen when we do get married, but my GF has also replaced her maid of honor with her another close friend. Not only will the trio not be a part of our wedding party, they have been uninvited from the wedding, along with their families. We might even kick her younger brother out of the wedding if he continues to yap about us overreacting. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I feel lighter already, but I know my girlfriend is hurting. She is putting up a brave face now. But it will take some time to get over this. I hope therapy will help. Her and us both, TLDR. My girlfriend's childhood friends tried to sabotage our relationship by spreading lies, including telling at least one of her exes she had schizophrenia. They also tried to stir conflict over heirloom wedding gifts to create a wedge between us. After I confronted an ex and played a recording of his claims, my GF was devastated but confronted her friends, who admitted they wanted her to end up with one of them, Ray. She cut them off completely. The wedding is postponed. But we are still together, starting therapy soon, and planning to move forward. Without the toxic trio or their families, edit can't update an update, so let's call these edits or clarifications. We have indeed gone NC with them, but haven't blocked their numbers yet. We will not be blocking their numbers till next weekend, just giving them more time to dig their own graves. After that, we will document the messages for posterity and then block them in due time. We're looking into sending cease and desist letters on the grounds of defamation and slander. It's only been 3-4 days and a lot has happened so fast. We need some time to just calmly think about our next steps. We have shared the recording in a common friends group chat. If that finds its way to social media somehow, well, so be it. Relevant comments? Commenter 1? Wow, what an update. I'm so sad for you, girlfriend F, but also glad it's all out there. Holding off on the wedding until she is in a better place mentally is a great idea. I wish you two the best going forward, and I really hope you never have a reason to post an update unless it's, we got married and it was perfect. Side note, your girlfriend reminds me so much of myself when it comes to how she handles confrontation. I found out as a late diagnosis that I have ADHD. It presents differently in females and often overlooked, and because of the ADHD I also suffer from rejection sensitivity disorder, RSD. I don't know if she could possibly be suffering from this, but it was so eerily similar how you described how she handles confrontation that I wanted to bring it up. It's worth looking into. I've come a long way since then. Know that I have a basis for why I react that way to confrontation. Reply: thank you for your well wishes and the suggestions. I'll tell her about it and maybe she can bring it up with her therapist. She starts her sessions. All of this in 3 days? Reply: pretty much. We had most of our discussions the day I posted the first time. I had always known one of her exes was within my circle of acquaintance. I had just never wanted to snoop, but I did. We met up early the next day. It didn't take that long to get the BS from him. From there, things snowballed. We confronted the idiots that night. I wanted to wait a few days, but she didn't. Said if she needed to get it all out when she was angry. And now here we are. She took her anger out on them. I am ranting on Reddit. Commenter 2. Did you tell the ex that he dumped a nice girl because of some lies? Reply: I did, but he didn't seem to believe me. Just shrugged his shoulders as if to say it wasn't his problem either way. He spent time with her, never saw any obvious signs for anything, and chose to believe her friends. The way I see it, it was his loss and my gain. Could OP and his fiancée elope instead? No need to have outsiders opininos on ruining the relationship. Reply: ha, that's actually a great idea. But I am Indian, and it already took a lot to convince my family that we didn't want a big Indian wedding. I love my culture and heritage, but both of us agreed that a simple Christian ceremony would be more ideal for us than 3 per 4 days of extravagant rituals and traditions. But eloping would disappoint both sets of parents. They have been so supportive of us, so we don't really want that. Stories number 22. Is it fair or me 27F to tell my husband 34M that he can't move with us if he isn't employed? To try and sum this up as simply as possible, he got fired from a great job in January. Since then he has tried maybe 2 or 3 odd jobs. None of them very well paying or lasting more than a couple weeks. He has contributed less than maybe $2,000 to our family this year. We have 2 two-year-olds together. I've made about all the sacrifices I could to keep us afloat. Went into CC debt, worked 2 jobs at times. I make about $53K a year and work extra odd shifts for OT, but yeah, I gave up having an apartment this past summer because of debt accumulating recently. My parents offered to watch the kids more full-time so I don't have to pay for daycare, which would allow me to afford to support the 3 of us somewhat decently and get an apartment. I told him that if he can't get a job, like anything, I'll even take 10 hours, just something to help me. That he can't come with us. I can't support him too. He has no disabilities that would prevent him from working. I know it is a tough market. I know that. But we are coming up on a year and I just can't stomach him being at our apartment doing nothing, while our kids are taken care of so we can work in any way possible. So if he can't do this, is it fair for me to say he can't come with us? Edit. About why I was paying for daycare. To clarify, I had my kids in a 2-day educational program. It was hard to afford, but I was doing this for their benefit. They are smart and deserved hands-on in the social aspect. My mom has offered to take this over for us until I am more financially secure. So not daycare. More like a school curriculum. I switched from a WFH position earlier this year for more pay. Up until that point, I was the kids' primary care, and working and finishing a degree. It has been a crazy year of transition. I'm just tired and confused, and I just want stability for myself and my children. I've grappled a lot for what is best for my kids. I'm new to the whole school daycare thing. Trying to do the best by the kids. He is a good dad. He loves them. He is failing me as an equal partner though. Comments. Commenter 1. I'll even take 10 hours. Stop begging for the bare minimum. All it will do is teach him to do the bare minimum, and even that will only be in short bursts. He's gonna do just barely enough until you let out a sigh of relief. Once you're off his ass, he'll stop even that little bit of effort again. Live separately until he can prove to be a functioning adult again. Right now, you're treating him like a teenager. Commenter 2. Yep. If he doesn't have any medical issues, he needs to be full-time. At least, the fact that OP had to juggle multiple jobs, going to school, and being WFH but handling childcare at the same time is insane. 10 hours? I'd be demanding a divorce by this point. He isn't a good dad if he isn't able to financially provide for his children at all. It'd be different if they agreed to him being SAHD, but sure doesn't sound like it. I'd say separation. He gets something that has him working full-time hours, and couples counseling minimum to prevent a divorce. This is crazy. Update: I wasn't honest in my first post. Just like I'm not honest and lie to most people in my life right now. I guess it is the unbelievable amount of shame I carry. It is true that my husband was fired in January. The real reason is he had a workplace injury the previous summer. He completely tore up his knee, had major surgery, rehab. The company was extremely helpful in his recovery. Then his prescriptions ran out. Found out later he started buying pain pills off the streets. Which, yeah, isn't oxy whatever. It's basically just fentanyl these days. So, as a consequence of a ramping up addiction he could no longer hide, I had kicked him out. Then he got fired. He went through periods of inpatient and outpatient and AA and therapy and Suboxone maybe, and drugs for depression and drugs for anxiety and everything else we could think of. And all the while we were living separate lives because he was a danger to children. Why am I still so attached? How the fuck was any of us supposed to foresee this happening? You fall deeply in love. You get the ring and the kids. Life is going pretty good, always with its challenges, but that is just like life. It is fucking hard. I'm not even sure what the point of my post was. It didn't really make much sense because, yeah, he is an able person. Why can't he just get a job, come on dude? Or be a stay-at-home dad? Y'all, I would have loved to give him that privilege. If only. But people with substance issues can't really keep a job. Definitely can't be around kids. A lot of people read my post, took time out of their day. Most of it was just criticizing us, but I mean that is what everyone does to everybody most of the time in real life too. Still, I have been feeling some type of way about it all being based on a lie. I want a life with him. He does love his kids. This isn't how it was supposed to go. Then to top it all off, he has, because of his addiction issues, caught slick 5 charges in the last 5 or so months. Been wrecking cars first, his then whatever family was stupid enough to allow him to drive them. Legally isn't allowed to drive. After I posted this, he got arrested for driving without a license. I already wasn't sure how in the fucking world I could salvage our relationship. Love was the only thing keeping me from cutting him off completely. His family and I are going to push for him remaining in jail, then prison, and hopefully get him placed in hopefully a more substance recovery-based program. But y'all know how fucked the US prison systems are. Most likely he will be general population, get even worse mentally. And God forbid it, but may eventually be saying final goodbyes. My priority at this point has passed protecting him and moved on to protecting the general public from him. For now, at least he is safe. If you consider jail prison safe, which I sure as shit don't, but at least he won't OD, right? Repeat to myself, it is out of my hands. Just like this whole experience has been, fuck y'all, I don't even know anymore. My family says they are proud of me for holding it together. I'm sure they are disappointed in a lot of things I've done. Not just keeping the door open this long. I've been so dumb throughout my 20s. I know I can do better in my decision-making. Most of all, I want stability for my children. I've decided that I will be serving him with divorce papers once he gets officially sentenced. It is just a damn shame. I loved the person he was before all this chaos so much y'all don't even know. Him holding our 2 little twins in the hospital. The dad who cried when I gave him a card saying, "Baby, I loves you and we'll see you soon, Daddy." This was after something like, after my 20-month scan, I can't specifically remember now. Then I handed him a second card that said, "Baby B loves you too and can't wait to meet you as well." I cry every time I think about that. I'm crying right now. How do I accept that I can't have that life with him? I just don't know. I'm just so heartbroken. In short, yeah. We will be moving into the apartment without him. We will be moving on completely in life without him. Maybe one day he can join us again and we will have more special and meaningful days. Maybe not. It's out of my hands. I appreciate y'all. Y'all can tear me up for all this. That's perfectly fine. I deserve it too. I'm not a saint. I've said horrible things to him throughout this time. I have been so angry and resentful from how this past year and a half has played out. But I'm ready to finally move on. I'm just gonna leave this here and probably not return to this account. For those of you out there that are dealing with anything like I have, I'm so fucking sorry. It destroys not just the addict's life, but anyone who cares about them. As long as you care about them, and it isn't ever easy to say goodbye to someone you love. Not in normal circumstances or the extreme. Just know that you are not alone. I tried Al-Anon, but wasn't able to establish a community. There are resources and genuinely caring people and support out there if you need that. Take care, y'all. Comments. Commenter 1. That's a heavy and heartbreaking story. You are very strong. Also, suffering such an injury must be a heavy hit. We are all just people. I wish you all the best. Even in those dark times when light is scarce, be here for your kids and yourself. Don't hesitate to ask for help whoever you can. You don't have to face this alone. Find therapy if you can, and if you still have energy, be here for your husband if you want to. As a person that worked with addict, having family that cares about you is an absolute game changer for such a person. But again, put yourself first. Commenter 2, you need therapy. Commenter 3, a lot of it. Commenter 4, you need to protect yourself and your children. You made the right choice. You can't be his nurse or nanny. You should break it clean. Don't leave the door open for him, and let him beg to come home when he isn't ready. Make the divorce official. If he gets himself clean and 100% back together, you two might not be together. But like you said, at least he'll be alive. Maybe one day he can be that good person again. But he's gotta expect that you might be remarried by then. You can't dangle yourself out there like a carrot. Some people don't get help until rock bottom. He can't hit rock bottom if he thinks you'll pick him up. Stories number 23. I regret never calling him dad. I'm 18. I'm not gay, but I wanted to confess something without getting homophobic comments. And I don't expect anyone to read all this. I was a foster kid since a toddler, when I was 9. I met my new half-brother and sister. They were babies, and they were fostered out to 2 men. I went over a couple of times, and one time one of them, Dad 1, asked me what my deal was. I was a defensive kid, and I said, "What's it got to do with you?" He said, "No wonder you don't have a home." I remember wanting to hit him, but he put his arms around me and kept me there until I stopped. I remember him saying, "I think you're a good kid in a bad spot." I called him a bad word, and he said he liked me even more. The social worker and my temporary foster parents had a chat with me. Not long after, apparently the two men were going to foster me. They showed me around my new home, and then Dad 1 took me out to play. And I remember him telling me that I'm a butt, that this will always be my home. I never had a home and just thought it was another false promise. I was used of false promises. Never get too comfortable, not long after my placement. My bio father kicked up a fuss at two men minding his son. There was one day, I was home alone with Dad, and my father came in and grabbed me by the arm to take me away. Dad 1 caught my father by his neck. I still remember how angry he was. He said something like, "You come near my boy again and I'll make sure you regret it." I never told him, but him calling me his boy gave me hope that it might be different this time. I never told anyone what Dad 1 did that day either. My father never troubled us again. I was a prick in school. I got in trouble a lot, fighting and stuff. Dad 2 struggled with me, but Dad 1 would always come into the headmaster's office. He'd be disappointed, but he was never angry. Sometimes he'd be interested in how the fight went. There was a few times the fight began because another boy was mocking my F-word parents, and those times he'd treat me to McDonald's or something LOL. I did calm down as my life stabilized. Dad 1 and I used to camp. He'd take me to football games. We'd play PlayStation. He'd take me to work sometimes, and often to the pub. I was his favorite, whereas I think Dad 2's favorite were my siblings, understandably. I can remember both Dad 1 and Dad 2 being really excited when I had my first date. Dad 1 took me shopping. Dad 2 styled my hair, and then Dad 1 unstyled my hair. The three of us stayed up late after my first date, and I spilled the tea. I used Dad 1 and Dad 2 here, but I never called either of them Dad. I didn't like the word, my hang-up. In March, Dad 1 died unexpectedly. He was my rock. I miss him, and I feel kind of alone again. I don't really have the same bond with Dad 2 or my own half-siblings. The thing I regret most, however, is never calling him my dad because of some stupid hang-up. He always made it a point to call me his boy, yet I never called him Dad. I know it would have meant a lot to him if I had. The guilt of not doing so eats me up most days since his death. I know this is probably the wrong sub for this, but I just wanted to put it somewhere. And I didn't want homophobic comments. I miss my dad, the one who gave me a home, loved me and wanted me. He was the best dad a messed up kid could have. Comments, I know he's struggling big time. I'm not sure whether saying it will help or hurt him. He wasn't just his husband. They were best friends. I never heard them have one fight. I kind of try to hide my own issues around him because of his struggle, and instead help with my siblings. They weren't just husbands. They were inseparable. He is struggling a lot, and I kind of felt like I needed to be the tough one for him and my siblings, but maybe not. I usually just cry in my room. Yesterday was the anniversary of them taking me in, so everything feels a little more raw. Yeah. It took me a while, but I did say I loved him, perhaps not as often as I should have. I said thank you a lot. On my 18th birthday, I thanked them both for what they did for me before we cheersed my first legal drink. I did a little speech. Dad 2 cried a lull. Dad 1 put his arm around my neck and told me I'm a right softie. He and I were never the best saying our feelings, though. I hope there is an afterlife too, and he is reading it from up there. You're right. I probably become closer to the rest of my family. They are going through the same as me after all. Hopefully he is up there looking on, after his death. I found out he had a similar upbringing, although he was a little older. It's weird, but I could always sense it. He always understood. The thing that kind of holds me together is he always called me his boy. So I assume he knew it even if I didn't say it. Dad 2 is kind of struggling, and I didn't want to burden him. I tried being the tough one. I do love Dad 2 too. It's just a different bond. Knew what it was like to have guardians who didn't care enough to do anything with me, which made me love Dad and Dad even more. Despite my regret, Dad 1 has given me many great memories, strangely. I think I've become a better brother since his death, probably to help Dad more than any other reason. I think I will share it with him. I don't want him to think I don't care either. And I do love him too. I'm as grateful to him for taking me in and loving me. I should learn to cherish the one I still have. Update, I don't know if anyone remembers me. I was a foster kid and 2 gay men took me in. Dad 1 died suddenly and I regretted never calling him Dad. It was probably rude not to tell you guys sooner after all the replies you gave me. I did tell Dad 2 a few weeks after I posted about my regrets. It really upset him, but in a good way, I think. He said he was glad I told him, as he was really worried about how I was coping. He told me Dad was the driver behind them taking me in. He saw himself in me, apparently. Dad 2 told me about Dad 1's upbringing. I knew bits, but not a lot. He said our social worker told them I was a different case to my half-siblings, which he knew. They were warned not to expect any affection from me, including being called Dad. He also told me how his parents came over when I was 12 or 13. His parents told them it was rude I didn't call them Dad. Apparently Dad 1 told them if they say that again, especially in front of me, they would not be allowed in the house again. Dad 2 told me Dad 1 never cared about being called Dad by me because he never expected it. He said I went beyond Dad's expectations by giving him a hug now and then, and by being his best bud. He said Dad 1 and I couldn't be apart for a couple of hours without a bunch of texts being swapped, which was kind of true. I read over them sometimes. It was often stupid stuff. I'm at uni now, so we don't live together as much, but Dad 2 and I have been far closer than we ever have been. We do a lot more stuff together. Saying Dad is still a bit of a hang-up for me, but I've began calling him Pops. I still miss Dad 1. I still cry. I'd have been nothing without him, and I'm everything because of him. I've mostly made peace with never calling him some variation of Dad. I can't change what I didn't say. If there is an afterlife, it'll be the first thing I'll say to him as we sit down to a game of PlayStation. Anyway, I've brought down the mood enough. But thanks for the encouragement. I'm very glad I made the original post, stories number 24. Aita, if I pack my husband's belongings while he's gone, I'm going to try to give the entire story with context. Bear with me. It's basically my first time posting, but I'm a long-time follower of Dusty and Candy Thunder. Never thought I'd have anything relative to post. I got married about a year and a half ago, third marriage for me. So I know the divorce rate risk, but I took the plunge. It bit me hard. Prior to marriage, we had the financial discussion. Separate bank accounts, most of our bills separate. I was already more physically settled than him. The agreement was I would continue to pay the current bills in the place I own, while he saved and bought what was necessary to build a home on property my family owns in trust where we could move to, retire in, and basically live in mortgage-free in a few years' time. That was the agreement. Fast forward 17 months later, he's currently on his second trip abroad. He sprung this on me less than 2 months ago. He went last year. I said okay because it was his dream trip, sold to me as something he had been wanting to do for decades, and his ex-wife would never let him go. Me going was never an option. 1. My job would never approve the week's 20-plus days off. 2. Anyone without a gallbladder knows conveniently found bathrooms are a must. And this was a trek at high altitude, roughing it. I tried pointing out that he was no longer a young man in his prime, and this was a very adventurous endeavor. That was met with disbelief and more than a tad bit of delusion. Safe to say he went on the trip, was unable to finish the planned trek, and had to pivot into another idea during his remaining time abroad. Okay, he returns home, goes through a brief but furious series of jobs to the point my family, much to my humiliation, had nicknamed him Hopper. Finances are all leaning on me, with some help from my mother who is approaching 70. I'm beyond mortified. Finally he gets his dream job that pays well. He's had it since May. September is when he sprung this trip on me. Now, instead of it being his once-in-a-lifetime trip, he wants to do it yearly. Remember, we are still paying off my mother for how she helped us. I'm making him pay. Otherwise I'd have already had it reimbursed. And he doesn't want me telling her he is going. Just that he's working over on his job. Current job is home a month, gone a month now. If you've made it to this point, yes. I had been more than contemplating the benefits of single life again. Despite what a dumpster fire the dating world is, the trip is set to leave this past Thursday 2 days ago. When he springs on me that a friend wants to go with him, he announces this last Friday, 6 days before the flight. Shockingly, this friend is someone I never heard of. And female. A mother of someone his now adult kids went to school with. Now I'm not asking if I should stay with him. The demise of the relationship is obvious. What I'm asking is, do I pack his things and put them in the storage unit prior to his return? Not telling him till I've done it. Knowing he only has a few days in between returning to the country and going back to work. That he'll likely be broke. Nowhere to go and the holidays are coming up. Side notes, no, he can't stay with either of his kids. One has moved 8+ hours away for other reasons. And the one in the area is moving as we speak and staying with in-laws during the transition. Stories number 25. My system that finally broke my 15-year discipline curse. I'm 38 now. And I've been chasing this ghost called discipline since I was about 22. I used to think of it like some mythical superpower other people had. I'd watch friends wake up at 5 a.m., hit the gym, go to work, meal prep, journal, and still somehow managed to have a social life. Meanwhile, I was constantly playing mental tug-of-war with myself, half motivational quotes, half self-loathing. For most of my 20s and early 30s, my life was basically a loop of get inspired, make a plan, fail, hate myself, repeat. I tried every system you can imagine: bullet journals, habit trackers, morning routines, gym challenges, productivity apps. I even paid for one of those online discipline boot camps that promised to turn you into David Goggins in 60 days. Spoiler, it didn't. The funny thing is, I wasn't lazy in the traditional sense. I worked, paid bills, showed up for friends, and handled the basics of life. But I was stuck in this middle ground where I'd never follow through on the bigger things. I'd start a side project and let it die. I'd say I'd get in shape, and last 2 weeks, I'd commit to writing a book and end up with half a Google Doc. I was dependable for other people, just not for myself. Then last year, everything hit a weird kind of breaking point. I was sitting in my car outside my apartment one night after another failed I'm gonna get my life together attempt. I had gone to bed the night before, promising myself I'd wake up early to run. My alarm went off, I snoozed it 6 times, then justified skipping the run because it's raining. It wasn't. I was lying to myself in real time, and I knew it. I sat there that night in the car thinking, what if I'm just not built for discipline? That thought scared the hell out of me, because if that were true, then what? I'd spend the rest of my life chasing consistency I'd never reach? That's when something clicked. Not a lightning bolt of inspiration. More like a tired sigh from somewhere deep inside that said, then stop trying to be perfect and just do the damn thing differently. That moment kicked off what became the first truly sustainable system I've ever built for myself. It started small. I told myself I wasn't allowed to chase big transformations anymore. No new year, new me, no 30-day challenges. No, this time I'll really stick to it. I'd pick one thing, just one, and my only goal was to be less bad at it every week. That's how I started running again, the first week. I just had to put on my shoes and walk outside for 5 minutes. Didn't even have to run. The second week, I jogged to the end of the block. Third week, I added one more block. It sounds stupidly simple, but the rule was I couldn't skip twice in a row. No matter what, that no 2 skips rule changed everything. It took all the guilt and perfectionism out of the equation. If I missed a day, I didn't spiral. I just said, okay, cool. Don't miss tomorrow. After about a month, I realized something weird. I didn't hate the process anymore. I wasn't fighting myself every step. Around that time, I reconnected with an old friend, Jordan, who had always been the kind of guy who looked like he had his life perfectly lined up. We went to the same high school in Portland, and he was the student council president turned entrepreneur type. I told him about my new experiment, and he laughed because he'd just finished reading a book called Atomic Habits that basically described what I was doing. We started meeting up every Saturday morning for coffee. Those meetups became a mini accountability group. Even though neither of us called it that, a few weeks in, Jordan brought along his friend Lindsay, who was training for her first marathon. She started sharing her training logs, and I remember being amazed by how non-dramatic her discipline was. She didn't talk about motivation or mindset. She just showed up and did what was on the plan. That hit me. I'd spent years trying to make discipline feel inspiring, but the people who were actually disciplined treated it like brushing their teeth. That realization bled into everything else. At work, I stopped trying to overhaul my productivity overnight. I work in marketing, and my boss, Renee, had been on me about missing deadlines. Instead of creating some crazy project management spreadsheet, I just told myself, if you finish one task early today, that's the win. And you know what? Finishing something early gave me a weird dopamine rush. It snowballed. Within a couple months, Renee pulled me aside during a team meeting and said, I don't know what you've changed, but whatever it is, keep doing it. That moment made me realize how long I'd been waiting for someone else to notice I was improving. I used to chase external validation constantly. This time, it came naturally because I wasn't chasing it. The biggest test came when I started applying the same method to my health. I'd struggled with my weight for years, up 20 pounds, down 10, up 30, down 15, classic yo-yo. Instead of trying to go paleo or count macros, I made one rule: no takeout on weekdays. That's it. The first week, I caved on Wednesday because Matt, my coworker, invited me to get tacos. Normally, that would have spiraled into, well, I already messed up, might as well get pizza tomorrow. But this time, I told myself, you broke the rule once, fine. Don't break it twice. Next day, I cooked at home. It was shockingly freeing by month 6. I was running 3 miles without stopping, eating better, sleeping better, and, most importantly, not hating myself when I messed up. Then something I didn't expect happened. People started asking me for advice. My younger cousin Emily came to visit over the summer, and she told me she'd been struggling with procrastination. She's in college, dealing with the usual chaos of classes, social life, and anxiety. She asked how I stayed consistent now. I told her my less bad every week rule and my no 2 skips rule. She thought it sounded too easy. A month later, she texted me, "I've turned in every paper on time this semester. You might be onto something." That message hit harder than I expected, because that's when I realized maybe discipline isn't about forcing yourself to be perfect. Maybe it's about designing your environment so failure doesn't knock you off track. I started writing everything down. Not goals, but systems. One page in my notebook says, "Systems keep promises that motivation can't." Another page, "If it's optional, it won't happen." And another, "The smaller the habit, the smaller the friction." These became my personal commandments. I taped them to the inside of my closet door so I see them every morning. One of the most unexpectedly emotional moments came when I ran my first 10K last November. Jordan and Lindsay were there at the finish line, holding this dorky homemade sign that said, "Less bad every week." When I crossed that line, I didn't cry because of the physical challenge. I cried because I actually followed through on something for the first time in my adult life. Afterward, we went out for burgers and beers, and I told them how surreal it felt. Jordan grinned and said, "You finally cracked your own code?" Man, I think he was right. Update 6 months later, my less bad every week system got tested harder than I ever expected. Hey everyone, I didn't expect the original post to blow up like it did. I honestly just wrote it as a kind of journal entry to remind myself how far I'd come. I wasn't trying to go viral, but I guess a lot of people related to the whole discipline isn't perfection idea. I figured I'd come back and give a 6-month update because, let's just say, life threw some curveballs, and my system got tested in ways I hadn't planned for. After I wrote that post, things were actually going great for a while. My running was consistent, work was smooth, and I'd even signed up for a half marathon. I was getting that nice rhythm where discipline doesn't feel like effort anymore. It's just your baseline. Then February hit first. My boss Renee left the company. That might not sound like a big deal, but she'd been my anchor there. She understood how my brain worked. She cared more about long-term consistency than day-to-day hustle. The new boss, Travis, came in guns blazing with, "We're going to 10x our productivity this quarter energy." The guy's nice enough, but his entire management style was spreadsheets and panic. Suddenly, everything I'd learned about balance got tested. I was working late again, eating takeout, skipping workouts. My no 2 skips rule was hanging by a thread. The funny part? I noticed it happening before. I would have slipped and not even realized it, but this time, I could actually feel my system getting overloaded, like the gears were grinding too fast. Around the same time, my friend Jordan decided to move to Denver for a new job. We'd been doing coffee runs every Saturday for almost a year, so losing that routine hit harder than I expected. I didn't realize how much accountability came from just having a friend who asks, "Hey, how's your week going?" After he left, I caught myself backsliding. Not dramatically, just little things. Leaving dishes in the sink, sleeping in a bit too long, telling myself, "I'll run tomorrow, 3 days in a row." Then one morning, I woke up and realized I hadn't done my Sunday reset in almost a month. That's my routine where I clean my apartment, do laundry, and plan my week. It's like hitting a reset button before Monday. So I tried to get back on track, but honestly, my head wasn't in it. That's when I got a text from Lindsay. Remember the marathon runner friend? She'd just finished her second marathon and was planning a group trip to Oregon's coast for a weekend run. She invited me, and I said yes immediately. Even though I hadn't run more than 3 miles in weeks, that trip was a turning point, but not in the way I expected. We got to this little Airbnb in Cannon Beach, just me, Lindsay, her friend Derek, and another guy named Mike, who turned out to be one of those early riser, cold shower minimalist types, the kind who makes you question every lazy decision you've ever made. The morning of the run, I felt totally out of shape. My lungs were burning halfway through, and my legs felt like cement. But halfway along the trail, I remembered my own rule. Less bad every week. So instead of quitting, I slowed down, I let them go ahead, I finished the damn run alone, slow and sweaty. But I finished later that night, sitting around a campfire with a beer. I realized that's the real power of discipline. Not being perfect, but being the kind of person who keeps going, even when nobody's watching. Lindsay said something that stuck with me. You built a system for discipline. Now you've got to build one for recovery, too. When I got back home, I decided to create a new rule. If you burn out, make recovery part of the plan. I started scheduling down weeks where I intentionally don't push. Instead of running or working late, I go hiking, read, or just catch up with people. It sounds counterintuitive, but those recovery weeks actually made me more consistent in the long run. Then, in late April, life threw another punch. My mom, Janet, slipped on some stairs and broke her ankle. Nothing life-threatening, but it meant she couldn't drive for a few months. She lives about 45 minutes away, so I started visiting every weekend to help out. Groceries, errands, cleaning. Suddenly my free time evaporated, but helping her gave me this weird new sense of purpose. It made me realize how much of my discipline had been built in a controlled environment. My routines, my schedule, my comfort zone. Now I was learning how to be disciplined within chaos. I'd drive out to her place Friday nights, stay the weekend, and still make time to run around her neighborhood. She started walking again with her boot on just to keep me company. We'd joke about our boot and sneaker team. By June, she was walking without support, and she told me, "I'm proud of you for showing up even when you didn't have to." That hit me harder than I expected. Work was still stressful under Travis, but I'd found my footing again. One thing I did differently this time, I started blocking out one no-meeting day every 2 weeks. I told Travis it helped me do deep work. In reality, it was my sanity day. No calls, no emails, just quiet focus. To my surprise, he actually respected it, said he might try it himself. Funny how discipline can ripple outward like that, when you stop making a big deal about it and just live it. People start following your lead. Then came the half marathon. I almost didn't sign up, I kept telling myself. You're not ready. But Lindsay convinced me, saying, it's not about being ready, it's about showing up. Race day was brutal, humid, crowded, and halfway through, my left calf cramped so bad I had to stop. A few years ago, that would have been the end. I would have quit, blamed the heat, and gone home feeling like a failure. But I remembered what got me here in the first place. The system, the rules, the mindset. I walked it off, stretched, and kept going. My time was nothing special. But I crossed that finish line grinning like an idiot. Afterward, I sat on the curb with a banana in one hand and Gatorade in the other. And it hit me how much my life had changed. Not in some movie montage way, but in a quiet, durable way. I used to think discipline was about control. Controlling your impulses, your time, your behavior. Now I think it's about trust. I trust myself to come back after a setback. I trust that missing one day won't ruin me. I trust that I can figure it out as I go. And that's something I never had in my 20s, the best part. My cousin Emily, the one from my first post, texted me last month that she just finished her first year of grad school and hadn't missed a single deadline. She said she printed no 2 skips on a sticky note above her desk. That made me tear up a little. I think the system works because it grows with you. It's not rigid, it adapts when life does. I'm still not perfect. My kitchen's messy right now. I skipped my morning run because it was raining this time. It actually was. But I'll go tomorrow because I don't need perfection anymore. I've got proof. Proof that discipline isn't a superpower. It's a relationship with yourself, and like any relationship, it only works when you keep showing up, even when it's hard. Final update, 1 year later, what discipline looks like after life actually happens. Hey again. It's been about a year since I wrote the original post about cracking my discipline code, and about 6 months since my last update. I didn't plan to write again, but a lot has changed, and I think this is probably the most important chapter of all. When I first started this whole journey, I thought I was learning how to build better habits. Turns out I was actually learning how to rebuild my identity. This past year tested that identity in ways that a spreadsheet or a no 2 skips rule could never prepare you for. It started in the summer, when I finally hit what I thought was my peak. I'd run the half marathon, kept up with my work routine, and even started mentoring a few coworkers who wanted help getting consistent. My mom was fully recovered and I was feeling stable. That's not a feeling I'd ever trusted before. I was always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Then, life obliged, my company announced layoffs in August. Marketing budgets got slashed, projects paused, and my entire department shrunk overnight. I survived the first round but got cut in the second. Just like that, 11 years at that job, gone. I remember packing up my desk while Travis tried to give one of those "you'll land on your feet" speeches. I liked him more by then. We'd actually gotten into a rhythm. But it didn't matter. My first instinct wasn't panic. It was numbness. I walked out to the parking lot, sat in my car just like the night years ago when I'd hit rock bottom, and waited for that old wave of shame to come. It didn't. That's when I realized something huge. Discipline had changed my relationship with failure. It wasn't that I didn't care, I did, but I didn't spiral. I didn't go into that old loop of you're a screw-up. Instead, I literally said out loud, okay, don't miss two. I gave myself 1 week to wallow. Sleep in, binge Netflix, eat garbage. And then I made a plan. Not a perfect one, just a less bad one. I called my old friend Jordan in Denver and told him what happened. He said, maybe it's time to build something of your own. That hit me harder than I expected, because deep down, I'd always wanted to start my own business. But I never trusted myself enough to follow through. This time, I did. It started small. I freelanced for 2 old clients under the name Anchorworks Marketing, a name my mom came up with, because she said discipline was my anchor. Within a couple of months, I had steady work, not glamorous, but enough to live. Around that same time, I met Clara, who'd hired me to help redesign her small e-commerce site. She ran this local boutique that sold handmade ceramics and art supplies. She was sharp, funny, and disarmingly organized. The kind of person who makes checklists for her checklists. We started collaborating, then hanging out, then dating. It's strange dating someone who's actually consistent. I used to think discipline and spontaneity couldn't coexist, but Clara somehow balances both. She plans her weekends but still manages to surprise me with last-minute road trips. She also doesn't put discipline on a pedestal. One night, over Thai takeout, she said, you know, you talk about discipline like it's a religion, maybe it's just being a grown-up? That line made me laugh, but it also humbled me, because she was right. I'd made discipline this sacred concept, when really it was just the foundation for a normal, stable life. The thing that makes the other stuff possible. When fall came, I got invited to speak at a local entrepreneurship meetup. The organizer, Ben, had read my original Reddit post, which still blows my mind, and thought I could share my system with other people trying to build habits. I didn't feel qualified, I'm not a guru, but I said yes anyway. The talk was small, maybe 30 people in a co-working space downtown. I told my story, the failures, the no two skips rule, the less bad every week idea. People asked thoughtful questions. One woman, Alyssa, told me afterward that she'd been trying to quit drinking for years, and my framework finally made it click for her. I went home that night and realized this thing that started as me trying to fix my own life was actually helping other people too. So I decided to write it all down. I spent the winter turning my notes, voice memos, and journal entries into a short ebook, nothing fancy, just a 60-page PDF called The Less Bad Method. I self-published it on Gumroad for $5, mostly to see what would happen. I expected maybe a dozen downloads. Within 2 weeks, over 700 people had bought it. I don't think it was because I'm a great writer. It's just that people are exhausted from all the optimize your life nonsense. They want something real, something human. That little project turned into a full-blown business by January. I started a small online community where we all share weekly progress and hold each other accountable. Not to be perfect, but to just keep showing up. Clara helped me design the website, and Ben helped me structure the group now. There are about 200 people in it. Some are runners, some are writers, some are parents trying to build better routines. One guy, Tom, told me he used the system to finally start painting every day after 20 years of saying he would. It's surreal. The biggest change, though, hasn't been external. It's how I feel about time. Before all this, time used to terrify me. Every year that passed felt like evidence that I was wasting potential. Now time feels like a partner, not an enemy. Because as long as I keep showing up, time is on my side. Last month, I ran my first full marathon. It took me just under 5 hours, slow by competitive standards. But I finished. Clara and my mom were waiting at the finish line, holding a new sign that said, "Still less bad." I think that sums it up perfectly. Discipline didn't turn me into a superhero. It didn't fix all my flaws or make me immune to stress or laziness or doubt. But it gave me something I never had before. Evidence. Evidence that I can fall apart and rebuild. Evidence that I can trust myself. Evidence that one day can actually turn into today. If anyone out there's still stuck in that cycle of starting and quitting, please hear me. You don't need a new system. You need one rule. Don't skip twice. Miss a day, miss a week, miss a month even. But don't miss twice. That's how you build trust with yourself again. That's how you go from chaos to calm, and maybe, someday, that's how you'll look back, like I am now, realizing you didn't need to become someone new. You just needed to finally believe that the version of you who tries over and over again is already enough.